Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is Almost an Agreement, the podcast about Knoxville and Knox County politics, government, other sort of things. We're going to talk about the most recent incident at Austin East. There's 4 separate incidences now this year that's been going on over there. 5 separate people, but 4 separate incidents. AC's not in the room. He had a hard night at work last night, I guess, so we're not dealing with him. He's got to sleep or something stupid like that. I don't know.
Sleep.
Lame. But we're Almost in Agreement, almostinagreement@gmail.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Find our website. It is almostinagreement.com. All the episodes are uploaded there, as well as all your favorite major podcast providers. Hit us up. I've got a bunch of city people that I'm working on getting lined up, especially coming to election time. There's news updates about the baseball stadium project and what the state's doing as far as that. And old Becky Massey's pushing pot through.
I don't believe it.
So we'll see how that one goes. But I don't know. Among other things, we'll talk about that. So we're Almost in Agreement. Stick around. Well, you're nodding your head at Becky Massey pushing pot through.
As far as I read the bill, she's just starting a commission to study it.
She's got a medical bill she's working on.
Yeah.
How is she going to push it through?
I mean, she's introduced the bill, so she's pushed it like it is her.
I thought the only thing I read was it was
political
initiating a position or a commission to study and look at pharmacists and kind of the ins and outs in case it ever did happen.
Well, that's what. Last time she was here, she was talking about it. She has one that's trying to get some medical on board because her brother-in-law or something like that had ALS, and one of the best things in the later term of that illness for that person was CBD and cannabis use, and so that opened her eyes to the thing. But she said there's 3 different ones going on right now, and it's essentially what you're saying is there's a body that's they're putting together to figure out how the state will react if it goes federally legal. Yeah. And then there's that dude that's trying to get it in the Constitution that regardless of whether it's federally legal or not, Tennessee will never allow pot. That one we've talked about.
That's what I was kind of wondering if that was going to counteract it.
Right, and then the Massey bill is trying to do some form of medical and decriminalization with prescription for people that are going out of state to get it for prescriptive purposes into other states that have at least medical. And so to make it so that you can go to, Illinois is the closest that I know of currently. I know Virginia just passed it, but I don't know when that goes into effect.
I thought Kentucky passed medical or Virginia.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but...
So, like, if I was in here, Tennessee, and I had a prescription, and I went to Kentucky and got it, then I could not be charged in Tennessee for
Right, and one of the things, too, is since it's illegal, a Tennessee doctor can't prescribe it either. And that's something that they're trying to work on, too, that even though it's not legal for purchase and it's not medical or dispensary locally or whatever, but giving doctors the ability to use it as a tool, even though it's not purchasable.
So does it need to be a prescription rather than like a medical card?
I don't know. That's
because like the medical states, even like the recreational states still have medical. And from what I've seen from the dispensaries I've been to, it's just a shorter line.
Right.
Like they have the 2 lines, have the recreational line, and then have the medical line. So you get your medical, you pass up all the recreational people.
It's like handicap parking.
Yeah, it's handicap parking. Exactly. Same thing.
I need it more than you do because I need it for a reason, not for fun. So that makes sense. But yeah, so that I know that one hit. I think it got through the first of the subcommittees that it had to go on. That was going on with that one, but I don't know. I'll see if I can find it.
So did our governor sign off on the Constitution and carry? Was that signed?
I don't know if it's signed yet.
I think I read it did.
That's I was trying to look for it, and I couldn't find if it was signed by him.
Something that I heard, and it was one of those in passing that I'm not 100%, that they're one of the like procedural rules that the state does is once it gets through House and Senate agreed upon and goes to Lee's desk, it has to sit on the desk for 30 days. So it gives that kind of grace period for people to react to it and people to voice out.
That's what I thought too, but I thought I read something that he did sign it, like earlier this week or last week.
Use that goggle thing.
That goggle thing? Well, hold on.
I thought it also said that it will go in effect July 1st.
Right, which I mean that's
which I'm assuming
that's normal, right?
Or maybe they were saying that it's inevitable that he will sign it and it will go into effect. But Yeah, because I thought I heard the same thing that you did, that it had to like sit on his desk for a certain period.
Yeah. Governor Lee signs permitless carry into law that makes it
April
18 other states. This was as of April 8th. So, yeah, but it goes into effect July 1.
Right.
Like everything. I mean, that's how anything that happens, if it's the first part of the year, first session, they do it in the state, it goes into effect July 1. And then anything that happens after July 1 goes into effect January 1 the next year.
So the question, you know how, what's the word, reciprocate, reciprocity?
Yeah.
So, like, if you have a carry permit in Tennessee, like, there's 28 other states that recognize Tennessee's carry permit, so you can carry in those states also.
Now, look at a graph. Most of them were pretty reciprocating to each other.
But does the
what I've heard on that specifically is that most states that have reciprocity agreements with Tennessee will not, if they don't have their own open carry, and even if they do, I think, but specifically if they don't have their own open carry but do have a reciprocity agreement, you have to have a permit from the state, so the state will still be issuing carry permits. And that's really only so that you can take it to other states.
That's what I was asking. Yeah. So there is still an advantage to getting a carry permit so you can take it to.
Right. So the fact that I have mine and just got mine right before this still has value when I want to go into Virginia or Kentucky or some of the other states that have reciprocity agreements.
I think I heard him mentioning it on when they were debating it, like the Congress and Senate. There were two different people, I think, that brought it up. They're like, we're still encouraging people to get their permit for when you go to other states. Can't just be like, oh no, I promise I'm good in Tennessee.
Yeah, look, I have Tennessee driver's license. That means I can carry anywhere.
I swear I'm good.
That's funny.
Because I'm assuming they also go ahead and share criminal records. I don't know if that's something
I'm
in
sure
process.
they all do.
Because I thought I heard people in Tennessee they were saying they didn't have access to the same criminal information that the TBI has, so they were trying to clear up to make sure everyone was feeding information to each other. And I was like, I would have thought that would have gone into effect, after 9/11, when it was like, hey, there was a breakdown in communication. We weren't all talking to each other and feeding each other all the pertinent information.
Well, it's like when you watch all these crime shows and stuff like that, and they're like, FBI comes in there, we're taking over this, and they're like, oh, and we're not sharing information. Like, that's probably pretty much true. Is why all these federal agents or law enforcement agencies, why are they so
politics?
Why are they politicians?
Proving your budget.
Exactly. Why are they not? It's
like we talked about it a year ago about the Waco documentary, docudrama or whatever. And at least the argument presented in that show was that the ATF was trying to prove their value, and that's why they made such a big a deal out of this incident. It wasn't that it was needed, obviously. It was that we need to prove that we need to have a budget. And so I think that's one of those right in there. It's like you spend the money or you don't get it next year. And so if you're, TBI or whatever, when you get to take over an investigation, that adds to your annual cost, so that makes sure your budget stays good.
Yeah, but why don't they work with them rather than... I mean, maybe I'm just wrong and those TV shows are not correct, but...
Well, that's that bases the assumption that their goal is to actually do good in the community.
Yeah.
And that's the question. So that gently transitioned us to the newest of the incidents at Austin East, where I don't know. So I found this video, and it should play, and we should hear it, and all that jazz. And this lady's name is Constance. I don't know what her full story is, but I've got
so that way no one can say I just made this shit up.
All right, here we go.
When the family called my phone and told me personally what happened, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that way no one can say I just made this shit up. No, this is from the family. According to the family, this is what happened yesterday. Anthony and his girlfriend had a dispute at the school. The little girl checks out, leaves, and goes home. When she gets home, she tells her stepfather that her and Anthony had another argument. I'm going to pause the story right here. Apparently, in previous incidents of Anthony and his girlfriend having arguments, altercations, the stepfather has intervened in the past, and he has beat Anthony's ass. He jumped on this little boy. I don't like that shit already. Why is a grown-ass man jumping on some little boy? I would never understand.
All right, just one point of clarification right there. A grown-ass man jumping on a little boy who's 17 years old.
That's beating up his girlfriend?
That had an argument / altercation. We don't know what that part was.
Yeah.
But, 17's not a little boy, But nonetheless, it's not. I'm not saying it's okay that it happened or whatever. And we'll go into it a little bit after some of the research I've done on this particular thing. But continue. Sorry.
But apparently, the stepfather has already jumped on Anthony in the past. When the little girl goes home to tell her stepdad that her and Anthony has an altercation, the stepfather starts texting Anthony's phone, telling him after school he gonna pull up and beat his motherfucking ass again. Apparently, the two little boys are friends. They were together. One little boy tells Anthony, I got a gun in the car. So we gonna get this gun, and after school, when dude pulls up, cause they're trying to beat up on you, you'll have some protection for yourself against him. So they skip their last period. They go out the side back door. Everybody at AE know about the side back door that's always open. This whole building supposed to be locked down. That's a Knox County policy. The doors are all supposed to be locked down, and the only way in and out is through that front door to check in with the administration. They go out the side back door. They go to the car, get the gun, and him and his friend go into the bathroom to hide out to wait for school to end. The stepfather is still texting Anthony's phone, telling him, get ready for this ass because I'm about to pull up. Well, Anthony texts back and tells him, well, if you come up here, I got something for your ass. The stepfather then calls KPD, Knoxville Police Department, and tells them there is an active student shooter in the building. So that's why all the KPD pulled up in front of AE yesterday, because they were under the impression there was an active school shooter. The police officer himself and one other officer enter the bathroom where Anthony and his friend are both hiding out. The officer that gets shot in the leg, he gets shot because him and Anthony go into a tussle. They have a little fight in there, like it's a fight breaking out. And the officer is trying to take his gun off his hip out the holster. Well, in the process of him trying to take the gun off the hip in his holster, he shoots himself, which makes sense. That's why he got shot in the leg, because it's a self-inflicted injury.
All right, that's the majority of it. It goes on a little bit from there, but I don't know. In the weird, gross Facebook sort of way, I was trying to find this video earlier because I wanted to talk about it, and I couldn't find it. And so I messaged a couple of different people that I thought might have it or might know this person to have access to the video to share it with me. And not 2 minutes after I asked people for it, it shows up in my newsfeed in the properly creepy Facebook sort of way. And so in talking to a couple different people about it, trying to get the video, I've been informed that to take this video with a grain of salt. How factual it is unclear. The word on the street, for lack of a better word, is that the girlfriend doesn't have a stepdad. So that whole part of the story may be made up.
Yeah, I think she mentioned it at first. I was about to say, I was like, wait, how does she know all this?
Right, and then obviously there at the end when she's talking about what happened in the bathroom,
right? Who
does she get that information from, which is a question. But it has come out in the TBI's release that it was not the kid's gun that shot the cop.
Yeah,
I did see that. But then I also heard that the kid's gun went off, came out of the pocket and went off.
Right, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was one of those
But I've not heard that there was two boys in the bathroom.
Right, haven't heard that.
I haven't heard
news
that,
source either.
but she said there was. But
I mean, the thing that to me when watching this video, and again, trying to when I was thinking about it earlier before I got the further information from some other people about it or whatever, thinking about it to me is the real issue at play here is that those two little boys, as she kept referring to them as, thought that was the correct solution. That there wasn't, I don't know, the school cop to talk to about it, or a principal or a teacher that. Get a gun and shoot this guy that's coming for me. If that part, if that part of the story is true, is that they were under some duress, that they were fearful for at least the one boy was fearful for his own safety, that this was the solution because there's no faith in the other stuff going on. Now, I've just shared it on the screen for those not watching because we're not doing a video of this one anyway. There's a post from somebody else that's that is family that's kind of questioning the validity of the story that we just heard. This is the girl in the story. The girlfriend in question is like, is my sister doesn't have no stepdaddy, and that weird ass Constance person or whoever sat across the street and watched my whole family, including my brothers, cry. That boy never went nowhere without his gun. So,
what's TF stand for?
The fuck.
Oh, weird as the fuck. Okay.
I think it's the fuck. Like smack the fuck, like a smack TF. What does it say? Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so I don't know. It's just another one of these instances, and it goes into, we have Biden post the Boulder shooting and the gun brace. They're trying to make these gun braces illegal, and the next step of gun control conversation that's been going on and stuff like that. In an instance like this, it's like, well, I don't know. To me, the gun part of the violence is secondary to why the violence is happening, and that's the question we can't ever seem to tackle or even address. And then, not Amelia Parker, Seema Singh's trying to get $4 million out of the city to invest further in, what's it called, preventative measures and stuff like that, which I don't disagree with trying to do something about it, but they just put $1 million in after the last one to some sort of program to try to help with this kind of stuff.
But there's not a law, there's not a state in our country that kid could have a gun.
Right.
There's all the laws in place say that kid cannot have a gun,
right.
But he has a gun. Right. So why making more stricter laws, or how is that going to stop the guy that shouldn't already have the gun?
Right.
Like that's
right. And it's not. There's no question of. There's no way the kid didn't know better than to bring that thing to school. There's no way the kid didn't know better that if the police were made aware of it, there was going to be an incident. The other story that happened is there was an incident in North Knoxville Wednesday, I think it was, where some 70-year-old white dude was holed up in his house, and the KPD spent 7 hours with negotiators and crisis peoples in helping and eventually arrest the guy and get him out of there. And so that immediately jumped to, well, they'll shoot a little black kid, but they won't shoot an old white guy.
Well, that's where my dad's been. I haven't talked to him in a couple days.
And so I don't. And again, I that's one of those. I jumped in on the conversation. I was like, there's 1,000 presumptions you're throwing out there, and you're jumping to one. This 74-year-old dude was in his house by himself. Who's he going to hurt? Well, and I disagree with myself on that same thing. It's like you're in a bathroom at a Knox County school by yourself with a gun. You're not going to hurt anybody else there either. As long as nobody else goes in that bathroom, it's brick and concrete and tile.
So they skipped their last class to go get a gun, then go back into the school. Why did you even go back into school? Why were you waiting for
according to her?
Right. And again,
why were you waiting for school to end? You already skipped your last class. Are you going to go in the last 5 minutes of class and check in? So
when the guy's coming,
you're not absent.
Just skip out and go home.
Just go home, right? Let's wait for him here in school with a gun. Gets us more in trouble. The story just doesn't make sense.
When are you going to meet me after school? Okay, yeah, I'll be here.
Let me wait for you right here, right now. Yeah, and again, I mean, there's lots of consistency on it, and then this rolls into the big story that's going on locally on it is that the city mayor wants it released. Some of the cops that were actually involved in it once the body cam footage released.
So the chief of police, I think she came out
last night.
Chief of
police is asking for it, and the DA and Mayor Jacobs are like, nope. And then there's
I was wondering who has control over it. Is the district attorney's office?
Right, and so there's been a lot of discussion about the legal means, because when it gets right down to it, that is public property. We own that as county residents, well, I'm sorry, you and I don't own it because we're county residents. You own your 180,000th of it as a city resident because it's the city police department. We buy that. The city owns that. The city owns it, and by the city owning it, the residents own it, and they own that property.
But I think it'd be a gray area as far as it being an ongoing investigation.
Right, and that's what the DA is saying. And so again, to get into full conjecture on our side, after we picked apart this Constance lady about the conjecture of the story, it's like, why? Why is the DA holding on to it? What is the investigation? Because it seems pretty straightforward that the cops went in because this kid had a gun and altercation happened. They shot the kid.
Well, maybe they're trying to figure out exactly what happened. They're want to investigate some people. They don't want to just release some footage and then now the public makes up their own assumption of what actually happened.
Right, but the inverse is what's happening right now is that stories are rampant in the vacuum of information. People are, again, maybe not making up stuff, but at least kind of adjusting the story to make it seem like their narrative makes it make sense because we don't have the facts. And to me, it reads that, I don't know, I feel like my super assumption with zero evidence is that the KPD and the mayor's office want it released because they know the DA is not going to release it. So that puts all the weight on the DA right now. And by the time the DA finishes what they're doing, they're hoping it cools down. That's my guess on it.
I'm assuming they were not going to release until investigation's over. I think TBI said it could be 2 or 3 months.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
They want it to be sooner.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I think.
I mean, the incident that happened in Virginia. I mean, that didn't involve a murder, but that happened last year, and they didn't release the body cam until this week.
Right. And apparently, a number of there's a good amount of precedence for. It involved a minor, and there's some different rules on that. It was on school property, and there's some different rules in that. But at the end of the day, at least according to Knox News, because Knox News has been hot on it. Okay, so let me be let me full discretion here is that we buy the Sunday paper like every Sunday because the missus loves her puzzles. It's comics and puzzles is the only reason we buy the Sunday paper, and I'll read a couple stories out of it here and there. And like the last couple Sundays, the couple gas stations around here have been running out by the time I get over there. And I was like, why are we not just subscribed anyway? And so because you can do a Sunday only subscription. Yeah. So I got the Sunday only subscription, but part of the Sunday only subscription is you get the online version all week. Huh. And so diving into my new subscription to Knox News newspaper, in the middle of this being my first week, and like, okay, it's a new app on my phone. I'll see what's on here and stuff like that. So the News Sentinel has been very adamant about sharing the legalities of how it can work because they reference other incidents where they'll go and they'll put the black bar over people's faces or they'll blur people's faces out to keep that kind of thing, whatever. And like what the actual law on it is, and essentially through a number of different sources, it's come to the conclusion of the DA has discretion in an active case on whether they want to let it out or not. The DA, the Knox County DA right now could release the footage. It's not it wouldn't be illegal or against any rules. It's not something that their office hasn't done before in different circumstances, but the DA's discretion on what's on that video and what it can or will do in the public sphere, the big one being, well, let's say, for example, that it turns out to be a wrongful death situation and the cop goes on trial. Well, if we've all seen the video, that damages the jury pool. Mm-hmm. And so the DA's responsibility is to get a fair, impartial jury. Well, if everybody in the county has already seen the video and reacted to the video, how are you going to get people that don't have some predisposition on the case when they get in there?
And with social media, even moving it to anywhere.
Right.
All that stuff is still available.
And as much as Knox County, City of Knoxville doesn't get national news, this one did.
Well, anything about it, I saw a mention the other day when they were trying to discourage people from taking pictures of their vaccine cards. They're like, yeah, you can block it out, but, there's software to add, the little black bars, but there's also software that takes those black bars away.
Really? Mm-hmm. So like the little green little thing, there's a software that could just erase that little green little thing?
It's out there.
Probably, yeah.
Hackers be crazy, bro.
They're good at what they do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like it's.
They're like, oh, you used Paint Shop? Yeah, I can use Paint Shop.
Paint Shop.
Paint Shop. Is that a thing? Paint Shop.
I think it's an old program.
What is it called?
I mean, Paint. You got Microsoft Paint, which is the standard, really generic one, but then Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop.
And then
there
you
go.
Together.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, something didn't sound right.
I mean, hell, I can operate a green screen function, so it's not that hard.
Where's your green screen?
It's up there. Like I only use it.
No.
I set it up with the $10,000 I'm not spending down here to be convertible. Like I want for our show, and not that it matters because we're not doing video currently anyway. But when I have a guest in here, our studio is our look. But then if I have somebody that wants to do something or I want to do something, like I said, like I joked in the text group about should we be on call for a Monday or Tuesday live riot episode. Because the Chauvin, they're estimating that the Chauvin trial will finish up and will what's the word I'm looking for here?
I think they're doing closing arguments starting Monday.
Yeah, and so that it'll close up and then goes to the jury, and then we'll have the results. What's the word I'm looking for?
Verdict.
Yeah, the verdict of it, and if it goes one way, I feel like there's going to be some. Because apparently
there's going to be some riots. I don't know people's names. Remind me what we're talking about.
That's the George Floyd. Chauvin was the cop that knelt on George Floyd.
Okay, I got you.
And
that's not here.
No, but like I was reading a story that the city of Philadelphia has already called their National Guard in preparation for that verdict.
So if the cop gets off, then they're going to riot like Rodney King.
Yeah, maybe. And so, I mean, maybe it was in poor taste to make a joke about doing a show with that. But anyway, the reason I brought that up was not to call myself a bad person, but I would the fun in playing with toys and stuff is that we could set up and we could sit where we are and watch it on the TV behind me. But for the cast out, it would have whatever channel we're watching in the background of us.
I got you.
So it'd just be like us sitting there watching it, and then what our background would to the other viewers would be whatever it is. So we could even go full weatherman and point at people and do all that silliness. But I don't know, it's fun. Like, that's been the joy of it for me. That's what I like to do. But I don't know. But it's this East Knoxville situation, and I don't know. I don't want to change subjects, but that just reminded me of a separate thing, the baseball thing, which I do want to talk about at some point. But I don't know. It's just it's to me, like you said, Max, is that it's one of those things that always goes to a gun control conversation when that's not at all what happened here. Gun control has nothing to do with this. The current gun control laws, previous gun control laws, any new version of gun control laws has nothing to do with this incident. But this is and will be a topic moving forward. And it's like, let's keep our eye on the prize here. The prize is why people are doing this, why people feel that this is the right solution to the situation they're in, not what's doing the work.
Well, it's kind of like with my joke about the whole medical malpractice, people dying, all that kind of stuff. The percentage of cops that are killing black people in America is a low percentage. Is it happening? Absolutely. But are those cops going out, like, get to their station house and get in their patrol car and leave? Like, I'm going to go kill a black person today.
Right.
Like, is that an intent? I don't think so. It happens. They make a mistake. Something happens. Just like doctors, that they don't wake up that morning like, I'm going to accidentally kill this person today.
Right.
But they do.
Right.
And why is that just, we were talking about that, and I joked about that, but I was blown away that there's 250,000 people that die because of doctors or nurses' accidents yearly.
Right. And according to AC, that's down thanks to the technology that they have nowadays as far as keeping track of what meds people are on and how much meds are and stuff like that. But
that's crazy that's a number that nobody cares about.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
And I guess I guess until recently in the social media storm is all the cop related deaths in the past nobody cared about because they justified it as that's the consequence of this practice. So the practice of policing is going to end up having dead people, and so we just kind of not look the other way, but we just kind of acknowledge that it's part of the price of safety, air quotes. Yeah. And I think that's probably exactly what happens with I think that, and again, it was like we talked about doing some research and dedicating an intentional episode where we talk about healthcare and pricing of healthcare and all that stuff. And I think it's one of those that it's so complicated and it's so convoluted that people can't keep up with it to see it or to even hear it when explained to them, like, this is why this is a problem. And once you start breaking down the details, people just aren't capable of understanding it. Myself, top of the list of people that are incapable of understanding how complicated these things are. And, some of it's complicated because of what it is, but some of it's complicated because of the way the system works. And that's the part to me that really needs the magnifying glass, is the system doing what it does. Yeah, sure, there's going to be a doctor that cuts the wrong thing in a surgery and kills a patient. That's a real accident. But, when you get into the different medicines and all the different stuff that's moving back and forth and all the different people involved that need to be involved.
But you have a nurse that they're supposed to give 0.5 milligrams or whatever of something, and they give 5 milligrams and kill that person.
Right.
We're like, oh, I can see how that's an accident. Like, they read that as 5, not 0.5 because bad handwriting or whatever.
Right.
But how is that any different than a cop going, I thought he had a gun and I shot him because I was...
Oh, that reminds me of the one. There's the lady cop that thought she had her taser. That was last week. That was a crazy story.
Oh, I've never heard
she
that
thought
one.
she had her taser out. She's up in position, looking down the barrel of her gun, thinking she has her taser the whole time, fires it, kills the dude. And on her body cam footage, is that the one you were talking about was already released? No, there's a different one. But as soon as she fires the gun, she realizes it's her gun, not her taser. It says, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, so she's like, I shot him.
Oh shit! I shot him. And it's like, what? These are your tools. I mean, that's like I don't know,
But how is that any different than
some that are black, some that are like neon yellow?
Yeah.
But seriously, you're shocked over that. But you're not shocked over a doctor that accidentally leaves a gauze in the surgery and the person gets sepsis and dies. Like, and I understand because I'm more shocked over the cop too.
Well, because I know.
But why is that? Why is there such a disconnect of?
Well, because I think logically, I feel like if I'm have my pistol out, well, one, I don't have a taser to confuse it with, for starters. But if I did have both, I feel like it would be fairly evident when it is in my hand that I know which one of the two it is. Like, you know, I agree,
but I would also see very evident that if you're doing surgery and you're about to sew this guy up and you see a piece of gauze in there, that maybe we should take this gauze out before we.
Well, I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going on a limb and guess that piece of gauze isn't still white at all.
No,
and that it may very much blend in with some other tissue because it's soaked in blood.
Well, I'm going to go on a limb and say the taser's black, just like her gun.
But again. My point is that I have experience with a weapon, and so like I can like to me it's not a rational leap to say that doesn't make sense that the person would do that. Where I not performed a surgery and I'm not used to cutting people open and stuff like that, to see that like it's not something personal to me that I could be like, no, that's a stupid mistake to make because I've never made any part of that. Like pulling a splinter is about as surgically as I've ever done to me or my children.
But I 100% agree with you that your baseline thought process is the cop fucked up. Like how the hell did she do that?
Right.
And we don't have that impression of.
Right, but I guess my point is that especially in this group of people who have used guns and have guns and own guns and stuff like that, it's a little bit more relatable to us than. I think it's the relatability that makes it more shocking. Like it's relatable to me. I know what a gun is. I know what it looks like. I've handled one. I've used one. That kind of thing.
It's the same thing when they're like, "Oh, this guy shot his friend while he was cleaning his gun." Why was your gun loaded when you're cleaning it? Like that makes no sense to me. I can't wrap my head around it. Like
I had a buddy do it. He was living with his grandmother and like shot into the concrete floor.
Because he didn't clear before he
I think he said he'd been drinking a little bit. I was like,
I took the magazine out. It should be empty.
Like, you're fucking stupid, man.
I mean,
you're lucky nobody got hurt.
Like I mess with my kids all the time. Like I'll get mine out and I will clear it twice, and I'll just walk over and hand it to them, and they'll be like, "What?" And I'm like, "What do you do?" And so they push the release button, even though I don't have a magazine in it anyway. And then as hard as it is to pull back, they're like, and they pull back and they check to make sure the gun's clear. I was like, whatever it is, I don't care where, when, how. If a gun is ever in your hands, the first thing you do is clear it. Period. Yep. You make sure it's clear.
That's what I tell my kids. And like even somebody, if we're at the shop and Anthony hands me his gun. And I see him clear it.
You do it again.
He hands it to me. I check to make sure it's clear. Like that's a.
And I think that brings me to something I've been thinking about this week too. Again, going on this gun violence thing and all that kind of stuff, and the constitutional carry thing. It's like we're too like it's like sex ed somehow. Like if we talk about it, they're going to do it. Well, the reality is it's there, so we need to talk about it. So how about we put forth some effort into general, basic community education into weapons and weapons handling?
No, guns, according to Knox County Schools, guns and knives do not exist. And just for children to see them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, honestly, and I'm still trying to get Spangler on, and I've, just scheduling mess. And I think Kimberly, I forgot her name, her last name, but his PR, kind of the lady that I did do the interview with, spoke at length about how much, because I asked her, I was like, where is he at on this constitutional carry thing? And very political answer was like, he's very big into training. He wants people to know how to use a weapon if they're going to have it. So I might pitch it at him when I get him. Like, hey man, why don't we, even in the schools, why don't we put a thing together where we are training the community what to do? You have a DARE program, which whatever, but like she was bragging on their reinstituting the DARE program because it's about, it's not about we want you to use drugs and we're going to tell you about them. It's we want you to know what to do if you're in a situation where drugs are around. It's not just say no. It's your buddy does
DARE's an acronym. Drugs are really expensive.
But it's like your buddies take something and you don't know what's going on and he starts reacting in a poor way. What do? You call an ambulance, you do whatever. You like just basic stuff on how to react in a situation. Why isn't guns one of those things? How hard would it be to have a basic program where you go and you get
like an auto instead of having like an auto body class, you have a gun safety class.
maybe something. Like, I mean, hell, range day, you could get some. I mean, it wouldn't be I don't think it'd be a bad thing if it was well supervised, well looked over. To have, I mean, let high school kids go out and have range time. Because I would assume that other than poor life choices like drinking while cleaning your gun, and forgetting to clear it or whatever, that I'm assuming, and I don't know the stats on this, but I would assume that there's probably, especially with a lot of the gun, like the accidental discharges where people get shot and killed and stuff like that. I would assume that most of those are people that aren't used to handling a weapon and don't know how to use it. They're like, hey, what's this thing? And they point it at themselves and pull the trigger on accident.
Yeah.
And so just a basic, muzzle discipline. You don't point at anything you don't want to destroy. So point it down all the time. Make sure it's clear as soon as you have it. And like just basic stuff. I don't see why that would be a bad thing. I guarantee you that I might pitch it to one of the school board people and have them on here. And they will freak out. There's no way. Parents aren't going to have that.
No.
I mean, they can option. Apparently, there's this bill going on there where I don't know if it's a state bill or if it's a certain district that apparently there's some LGBTQ studies or portions of some sort of class that they're making it so that parents, if they want to, can opt their kids out of it. Just like sex ed. I was
reading about that.
Just like sex ed. I remember sex ed when I was a kid. We had to take a form home. And you could opt out of it. And I mean, we get them all the time for different random stuff.
I think I was 6th grade and I forgot to bring my form back. That's what happened to me. That's why I don't know anything about sex. I had to sit like in the hall while all the other kids went in for sex ed. What'd you guys learn?
The syphilis is
man, they showed us some nasty pictures.
Yeah, that's what I remember. I mean, that's truly all I remember of those classes was like, this is a syphilitic penis. Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
they should have taught us like where the G spot is.
Yeah,
like
something useful.
That's what sex ed should have been.
Yeah. But anyway,
how to get her to fall in love with you.
I don't know. I don't see why that. Like, I know that would be something that would get a massive amount of pushback from parents. But I think it's the logical right move in the situation. Now, again, this doesn't solve the situation we just had with this kid at Austin East by any means. But how many accidental deaths a year from not knowing what to do when the one's in your hand? Could it potentially help with a lot? And I think that's pretty major. I think it makes sense, but I think it's unfortunate that would be super politicized and it would turn into a big fight and it just wouldn't go.
It would never happen.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen too many stats on accidental. I don't know if it's kind of like an underreported issue.
Is there a accidental death? It's going to be cop.
I think it was on Tosh.0. This guy, I don't know if he had like his own little YouTube channel, but had a small pistol and literally shot through his scrotum.
Unintentional.
Into like a coffee table.
All right, so the BMC. Yeah, accept the cookies, blah, blah, blah. Unintentional firearm deaths in the United States from 2005 to 2015. Results. We'll skip all the bullshit.
Background. Abstract.
430 unintentional firearm fatalities in the United States per year. The rate is highest for older children to young adults, 10 to 29.
So
there you go, middle school.
So that's funny because that's more people accidentally shoot themselves than cops accidentally killing or on purpose killing people.
So reasons being common circumstances include playing with a gun, 28%, thinking the gun was unloaded, 17%, and hunting, 13.8%.
And
the victim is suspected to have consumed alcohol in nearly a quarter. And in almost a half, the deaths are among those aged 20 to 29.
Conclusion.
Wow, this is anti-hunter.
Common sense.
Consuming alcohol, playing with guns, and hunting are common settings for unintentional firearm deaths. I would assume that the hunting one is you shoot, like it's not shooting yourself on accident.
Yeah.
No, it's shooting a deer and you hit a...
Right, or being an idiot and shooting at something moving instead of waiting to get a clear picture of what you're shooting at, and it's like, oh, there's some rustle in the bushes, bang, and it's your buddy or some other hunter out in the area.
Sometimes it's climbing up into a ladder. You've got it around your chest,
or you could be Dick Cheney and just shoot the guy next to you on a duck hunt or whatever.
I had a lot of shit on him.
It's like, I thought he was a duck. He's 2 feet away from you, walking right next to you.
Yeah. He made a weird noise, sounded like a bird.
I thought he was a Democrat. What? Anyway. But I don't know. That to me makes a lot of sense. Going to the baseball thing, one of my scout dads.
Keystone Scouts?
Yeah. I mean, as much as scouts have been this year, it's been a weird year, period. But I mean, doing scouts and not being able to do a lot of in-person stuff, and like our charter organization wouldn't let us use the facility for a chunk of the year because of CDC stuff and this, that, and the other. And so it's been a weird year. But we've been, we've been doing stuff. Like we did a hike yesterday. So I was talking to one of the other dads. We were talking about the baseball stadium. It's like, he had no idea what was going on. His kid is like Knoxville Star, 9 and under or whatever. Like serious baseball kid. Like he misses almost every meeting. Like it's rare that we get a meeting where he shows up because he's got a baseball tournament or he's got baseball practice. He is a baseball kid. And I was like, well, we were talking about hot dogs. I was like, hot dogs are great. I love hot dogs. There's any type of hot dog. It just depends on the circumstance. Like cheap ballpark hot dogs are great circumstance. Or really nice gourmet hot dogs are great circumstance.
Oh, I love those hot dogs like wrapped in foil and set in like a steamer for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
Old ass fucking hot dog. Yeah.
Right. Some poor guy walking up and down the stands with a bag of them around his neck, and they're not hot but not cold either somehow. And when you finally get him, and there's a ketchup packet shoved in there with it, and it's been there for who knows how long. Yeah, there's something like that's just one of those things for me. And so we were talking about that, and then and so like the ballpark, like the baseball hot dog experience, which is one of the great things about going to baseball games. And I was like, well, it'll be here in town pretty soon. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, what? I was like, the Smokies are probably going to move downtown. 2 years from right now will be opening weekend for Smokies baseball downtown. He's like, seriously? It's like, how do you not know about this? It's like, I understand that.
Why do you not listen to my podcast?
That's also true. But it's like, I understand, not knowing the ins and outs and all the details and all the financing and all the different arguments that are going on. But I don't know how you, especially as a baseball person, like I would figure this is what dads do at baseball practice while the kids are playing. They talk about,
isn't that be cool to have a baseball stadium downtown?
Right. It's like, going into games this year. Yeah, I'm going to try to go down to Atlanta for a couple Braves games. It's going to be pretty cool when Smokies are here. Like, how does that not come up in conversation with a bunch of baseball dads? Because that's a thing to me. There's a separate level of dad. These baseball dads that I know that their kids are in. Mm-hmm. Like one of the kids down the street here, he's on the Knoxville Stars, but he's 10 already, so he's in the 10 and under or whatever. And like there's like a training facility over on Middlebrook that they go to. Like he did his birthday party at his baseball training center, and we're in there, and they've got like this field.
Is that D1?
I don't remember what it was. It was weird. I mean, it's just a warehouse with different stuff in it, but he's got baseball, and like it's just craziness. Like how into baseball he is. And it's like, how do you not know about this situation? What are we looking at?
Guess the opossum.
Oh, the possum.
Opossum.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't do it as bad when you guys are here. I mean, he does it sometimes. But like Rowdy gets nervous when there's people here. There was one show like when we were in the other room that he came over here and just ate a pillow. And so I try to keep his chew toys down here so that when he gets nervous, he has a chew toy and
I understand.
Doesn't eat things. He's a weird dog.
I was trying to remember, it was something you shared or an article that I'd read about the stadium. I guess they're trying to renegotiate the finances of it.
Right. The big one that happened was the state basically said, no, we're not doing this tax district thing. They're like,
I saw that. Told you I saw where Glenn was there, and then a couple of guys you've talked to, Mamatov.
Yeah,
that was one of the big pushbacks. The guy was like, well, what does the state have to gain in this?
Right.
And I was like, I didn't really think about that. Yeah. I didn't realize they were asking the state for money. I was like,
well, they weren't.
That seemed kind of weird.
They're not asking the state for money. They're asking the state to let them collect the sales tax that the state would collect and keep it here. And so what the state did, and because we have this budget surplus because of how well sales have gone through the pandemic, basically what the state did was like, we're going to write into the budget
that's what I thought.
$13.5 million for your stadium project, but once it's open and running, we're getting our sales tax like normal. And I called I called Mamatov about it. I was like, hey man, tell me what's going on with this thing. And he's like, I texted or I emailed him rather, and he's like, yeah, it's this, that, and the other. And I was like, can I get a phone call and do it on air or whatever? He's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, he's like, when? And I told him a time or whatever. And then I got stuck at work and didn't get home in time, and so I just talked to him, and I did a post about it for our Facebook page. But yeah, so basically, it's that the state's going to put into this fiscal year, so July 21 to June 22, that there's $13.5 million that the state's basically just going to hand to the sports authority here, assuming that everything else goes through, that we approve it, but more or less they're just going to hand us $13.5 million to put into the stadium project. And Mammoth was saying that's probably a little bit more than they would have collected in the same time, in the time frame, in sales tax.
But in doing that, they've taken away the tax zone around the stadium,
Right.
I think?
The stadium itself, any sales tax generated inside the stadium itself, which they're waiting on clarification is what he's telling me, but the stadium itself, so like concession sales and stuff like that, will still go into the loan payoff, but the half-mile ring around the stadium, that was what the bill was that they were asking for, is not going to happen. So when air quotes, when Boyd builds all his other stuff around it, and we have all the commercial and retail and residential down there, all that tax money,
Smokey's bar across the street,
yeah, all that all that sales tax collection will just function normally and go to the state as it normally would, and then the percentage that goes to the school boards. And so, I mean, to me, as I again trying to follow this whole thing, one of the big complaints was we're taking money out of the school board budget, because what the school board would be getting, what the schools would be getting, would be diverted into paying off this loan, and so now it won't be. So that whatever the state percentage of the state budget that is state schools will continue to collect that money and then be redistributed as normal. And so that fixes one of the big complaints, in my opinion, at least. The only thing to me that doesn't make sense is the city. The city doesn't know how they're going to afford it, and they can't. They really can't. And especially if they're going to put $3 more million into crime prevention that does nothing, I don't know how the city's going to pay for it. Because as I'm learning more and more about it, like if you're a city resident, you're looking at a tax increase in the next couple of years for sure, and a significant one. It's going to have to. I think they were saying that about 3 more years of the way the city's spending, they're not going to be collecting more than they're spending. As
so
things
who are they
go.
going to collect from?
They're just going to raise city property tax.
City property tax.
Yeah. Which may change the conversation about Metro, because then the city can pull that in and take it away or whatever. So there's one of the options for my Metro plan is that the city goes bankrupt and the county takes over.
The stadium could put the city in bankruptcy.
Not really. I mean, of all the things, again, you said it perfect. It's like $600,000 on a budget like that. Who gives a fuck? I mean, really. But I guess the question is, how many $600,000, $500,000, $1 million expenditures do they have in their budget every year that are adding up to make it insolvent, I guess is the word. And so it's budget season. All the budgets will start coming out here pretty soon, and so we can actually get into that once we get to see some of the preliminary budgets.
Sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've already got.
I know you are.
I got Virginia Bab. Virginia Bab is going to come sit with me, and we're going to go through the school board budget, the draft of the school board budget when they put theirs out. And I'm gonna get somebody from the county and somebody from the city when we do that. I'll try to get. I mean, essentially Stephanie Welch and Chris Caldwell. That's who they are for the city. They are the finance whatever for the two governments, and I'll try to get them and be like, let's walk through this budget. Help me out. Help me understand what this this expense of $5 million a year is. What is it? Like what does that do? Because again, I'm fully open to the idea that we go down that budget and it all makes sense. And I go, okay, because it was one of Todd's thing. Todd ran on he's going to raise county taxes and lost subsequently. Surprise, but I'm okay with what is it? I think it was like.
It's like 2 cents for every
right
10,000 that your house was evaluated at.
I think it's like 0.2% essentially what it broke down to or whatever. Which isn't that much, but it would raise X number of $1 million across the entire county, and it would significantly help budgets and this, that, and the other. And then learning the school budget and how weird it works, and that we have a significant sum of money comes out of Knox County and goes into other county school districts because of the way the state works their school budgets, and so Knox County has to make up the difference to hit the state required levels of stuff. And so, okay, I'm fully open to the idea that we go through these budgets and I go, okay, it makes sense that we need to do a 0.2%.
Well, I mean, if you're talking 0.2%, like. At the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference. Like if you ask me what my property tax is right now in the county, 870, 880, something like that.
Right.
So like if it increased next year to $8.90, I'm not going to notice. You know, if it went up $10, I'm probably not going to notice that increase. But where you get
$100.
Yeah, when you get to $100, but it's a slippery slope. It's like
it's $10 this year, $10 next year,
yeah.
And then you're what, 2 years into your mortgage, something like that. So by the end of your mortgage, all of a sudden you're paying more in taxes than you are paying for the actual house that it keeps up. And that's one of those things too. It gets into the whole crazy equity housing and affordable housing conversation. It's like, well, you have property tax, all this rental property that people are barely able to pay rent. Those rents go up. That is a result of these tax increases.
It's funny. There's probably, there's nobody listening. But if there was somebody listening in like one of the Texas or something, like what? $800 in property tax?
Oh shit! Yeah, good God. Yeah.
Are you complaining about property tax being increased?
I don't know if Texas would be the best example, but California or New York.
Oh no, Texas. Guys. My house in San Antonio. $150,000. I paid like $5,400 a year in property tax.
And again,
that's crazy. I thought it was normal. It's the first house I bought. I'm like, oh, that's just what it costs.
That sucks to be an adult, man.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't know like how much it sucked to be an adult.
That video on there's a video it's been viral for years of a kid playing Monopoly. And he's just crying because he landed on property tax. And he's like, the mom's taking the video and laughing her ass off. She's like, "What's wrong, honey? Taxes suck." And the kid's just bawling. And she's like, Yep, that's how it goes.
You try to teach your kids about taxes, like, yours are still somewhat young. Mine are somewhat older. But like when they were around your kid's age, and I'm like, all right, you have $10 to spend at Walmart. And they would like collect stuff.
Yeah, we already do it.
Yeah, they collect stuff, and it's like, and they're like, yeah, it's just $10. You get to the checkout, and I'm like, oh no, there's taxes on it. You got to put something back. Like, what do you mean? It's $10. No, there's taxes on that. Like, trying to teach them that, like, about taxes.
Well, it's the one thing that annoys a lot of foreigners that come to America. They're like, why can't you just put the regular price on there?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Oh, and there's a formula for it.
Is that English? That
was Aussie?
Is it Australian?
Didgeridoo.
British colony.
One of the Commonwealth countries.
One of the countries.
Speaking of the Brits, how much do we care that Philip's dead? Anybody?
No.
Yeah, me too.
Does it affect me? No.
Just because I know about that kind of stuff somewhat, doesn't mean I care.
Other than the running joke that Betty White's still alive, that's my favorite part of it. It's like there's like a list of people that just a list of people that are younger than Betty White, and it's like a picture of her, and she's like, I'm not dying yet, bitches. It's a favorite.
There was some South Pacific island, I guess, that held him in really, really high regards.
Yeah, like he was their god or something like that.
Yeah, they kind of revered him as like a very kind of holy figure.
It's weird how there's just like, well, I mean, America was expanded from England, so we haven't expanded. But there's just all over the world. There's just like these little colonies that are like South Africa. That was, they speak
English,
like the English there, right. Or you go to the ABC Islands and it's like a Dutch province. Like there's all these little pockets of places around the world that were colonized by Western people.
Yeah, this one island colonized a good chunk of the world.
Yeah, it's crazy, but yeah.
Where they joked, the sun never set on the empire because it literally didn't.
Right. just like the right now, it doesn't set on the American empire anymore.
Yeah, but we're not really colonizing anything. Like we were the last to be.
There's a good book
colonized.
I haven't read it, but I've been told it's a good book on it. It's called How to Hide an Empire. And it's basically the way the U.S. has done their colonization program, and to make it not look and seem like it's a colonization program.
Like, we didn't make it our colony. We just we put the prime minister in there. It was our handpicked guy. Right.
And Guam, and you got the Guam and the Puerto Rico situation. And D.C. is going to be a state, apparently. That's going to the Senate floor this week.
Really?
Yeah. It is going. The bill is on the floor. We'll see if it passes. But
so it's just not going to be a province like.
Puerto Rico. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like nobody should live there. It shouldn't. Like the only people that should be residents there should be the elected persons,
the president,
and the president. But it's still not. I mean, that's not his legal residence. That's just where he's staying while he's working. Like it's like you go out of town. Like you work for a contractor and you go do some job in Texas. You're staying in the hotel while you're doing the job. That's not your residence. That's just where you are while you're working.
Yeah.
And obviously there are lots of people that work in D.C. that aren't elected officials that need to be able to commute and stuff like that. But to me, you should be a Maryland or a Virginia resident.
So will they get? I guess if you make it a state, then there will be actually like senators and congressmen that represent that state.
Right. The argument is that's the point. Is the Democrats are doing it because it's going to be a Democratic state. Excuse me. Sorry, Matt.
Well, because.
And so that will make it.
But who actually lives in D.C.? Just all the politicians.
No, that's the point. That's my complaint. Is that all the people that the people that work at Starbucks and the bus drivers and the it's just a normal city, and it has apartment complexes and stuff like that where people that work at the gas station and at the grocery store and all that stuff.
This sounds stupid. I'm kind of confused on this. Like I thought D.C. was just basically like the White House and like a small area around it, but it's actually a large. So what is D.C.? Is that D.C. part of Maryland?
It's like 30.
It's between Maryland and Virginia.
Yeah, but like, what is D.C.? Is D.C. a city in Maryland?
No,
or is it a separate province?
District.
It's a federal piece of land.
Yeah,
it's a federal piece of land that's not Maryland or Virginia.
Right.
But they don't have.
There you go.
They've got one representative in the House of Representatives, but her vote really doesn't count for anything. So they kind of like half-ass have a representative. And that's been their main pushback. It's like, we have 800,000 people or whatever that live there, and they don't have any representation.
What's the population of D.C.?
It's gone up and down. I want to say it's higher now than it has been.
It says it's 69 square miles.
Yeah, what's the population of D.C.?
100.
Population.
And so, yeah, apparently, that's neat. I didn't know that. So, it was originally built as 100 square miles, ceded from Maryland and Virginia in accordance with the Residence Act. However, in 1846, the retrocession of the District of Columbia meant that the 31 square miles that Virginia gave, they took back. So it's only the 69.
Virginia was like, fuck you.
Something about it.
I want my land back.
I think somebody was saying, well, why don't they just, Virginia gave up their chunk. Why don't they just make this chunk, give it back to Maryland?
Yeah, that makes more sense to me too. Why does it have to be a separate
601,000 people? So more than Wyoming.
Well, then you would have the nation's.
It's barely bigger than us.
Well, then you have the nation's capital inside of a state, rather it's being its own.
But what is what functional value of it being an independent area of land inside the country? Like what's So the people that live in Washington D.C., that population 601,000, when they vote for something, is there? I mean, they don't vote for Maryland. They don't vote for Virginia.
Right.
Laws like
city.
Is there just that city,
yeah.
kind of like Hong Kong and China?
Well, I mean, it'd be like a city resident here. You don't get to vote on county. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they've got their own license plates and everything.
The city still votes on county stuff, don't they? I thought if you're county, you don't vote on city stuff, but if you're city, you vote on county stuff. It'd be the inverse of here, right? It'd be the inverse of here, where you don't vote. You would only vote on city stuff, but you don't get county stuff, and you wouldn't get state stuff because the state doesn't exist. You just have it's just a smaller body. I mean, that's all there is to it. I mean, it makes sense to me. It's just it doesn't make sense to me that 63.8 square miles. So trying to think about this. So in Puerto Rico,
in 2010.
So, but Puerto Rico's a province, so they don't have congressmen and senators, right?
Right. They get to vote for president,
but they vote for the only thing they can vote for is president.
I guess. I don't. Yeah. Hey.
I want to say they have a representative as well.
That's a good question. I don't know that shit.
But I think
we're all learning something
where they don't get to actually vote
Careful.
on anything that has anything to do with the U.S. government.
Well, sure.
I think they've got a representative that can, bring to Congress issues they're having, like asking for funding for this or that.
All right. So if you're a Rhode Island resident, be pissed because if this goes through, you are no longer the smallest state by a bunch. Look at that. District of Columbia is about 68 square miles. Rhode Island, the smallest state, is 1,212.
Yeah, it's itty bitty.
Right. 1,212 is itty bitty, and we're talking about making a state that's 68 square miles.
Yeah. which is
it's stupid.
What's the square mileage of Knox County?
It's a political game.
I mean, there's countries that are smaller than that,
but I'm just saying it's not for the betterment of DC residents. It's not for the betterment of anybody. It's just the politics of the game.
It's smaller than Knoxville.
Yeah.
I think it's asinine that they don't have representation in their federal government.
I think it's asinine.
Like we pointed out last time that they've got more people living in that than the whole state of Wyoming,
right? Or the entire Knox County.
You have over 600,000 people that don't have a voice in one of our main three branches of government.
Well, how
is that a good thing?
Well, they have voting rights. They just don't have.
They don't have they have a House seat. They just don't have a senator. So of all the people in government, there are two that they don't get to vote for.
No, they're. I'm trying to remember. Is it Maxine?
Yeah, Maxine Waters.
Yeah, she literally does not have a vote. Her vote does not count for anything in the House of Representatives.
He did say that a while ago, and I have to go with him because I have no idea.
All right, here we go.
That's what I've always understood, and that's kind of because they've talked about this for 10, 15 years. They've kind of floated it back and forth. That's one thing that's always kind of rubbed me wrong, because you have that many people that, we're a representative government.
DC elects a non-voting delegate. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
okay,
there's an interesting video of her kind of going off on it. They keep trying to tell her, like, yield. And she's like, no, I will not yield. She's like, she's pushed it for years. She's like, I am here, but I don't have a vote.
Right.
The people I represent don't have a vote.
I mean, I'll acknowledge and agree that that's stupid, but I think it's stupid because of the situation built that there should not be residents in that state, or it shouldn't be a state. It shouldn't be anything. There should be no residents there. You can work there, and whatever sort of taxes that the locality wants to collect from your work there, whether it's a sales tax or
city is a city without people living in it.
It should just be 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like you could,
that is DC.
The district of the White House.
I'm just saying. Like,
and then everything else is Maryland.
Like we joked about it a couple episodes ago. It's like, federal parks. Maybe a ranger lives there while working, but what other piece of federal land do people, normal citizens, live on?
Reservations.
Puerto Rico.
That's not federal land.
Yeah, it is.
It's their land.
Puerto Rico, Guam.
That's not federal land. The United States government doesn't own it in the sense that.
Yes, it does.
Like Knox County owns the street. They own that street. They don't own my house. I'm inside the voting district.
You're saying that the United States doesn't own Puerto Rico?
Not in the way that it's not that if you want to build a house in Puerto Rico, you might have to go through permit process, but you're not paying rent on the land to the United States government. You're paying taxes, but you're not paying rent on the land. Somebody owns that land. Like I own a piece of land and sell it to you. I'm not the federal government. I'm an individual.
Yeah,
like
but
Knox County owns lands. The city of Knoxville owns lands that they do things on.
So are you saying that everybody that lives in Washington, D.C. does not own that land?
I don't know. Not all of it. It said on there a second ago that the federal government owns most of the land, like 37 of the 68 square miles.
So then anybody that is just paying rent to the federal government that lives there, like you're confusing me right now. I
mean, I would think that if you're building, that's my point, is that I don't think anybody should live there, so you shouldn't pay housing rent. But if you're a business, if you want to put a Starbucks in on the corner of Pennsylvania Avenue and whatever. That you would pay rent. Starbucks would pay rent to the building owner, but the building owner would pay rent to the federal government because the federal government owns a piece of land.
Or to the district because they've got their own.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and that I don't know.
Go into the city.
It just doesn't make sense to me that you have residents on federal property,
except for the president.
Well, like you said, the whole city is not federal property.
Right. But if it's not federal property,
people are living on things that aren't federal property.
Then it should be property of the state of Maryland, essentially.
That's just confusing. This is making my brain hurt.
It's just it's a silly loophole that nobody thought about in hindsight. Because I don't think I have to go back to my history books, but I do not believe the intent was to have it function as a city. It was to function as the government's place to do business. Not for people to live and people to work outside of the government. It's supposed to be the place where the government's doing their work.
Well, they had it in Philadelphia, I think, originally.
Yeah.
So where does all that rent money go into the federal government budget?
No. I don't know how they do. I
would think it would go kind of like the city government because they've got their own like city police, where they've also got
DC
federal
police.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what the legal relationship is with building owners and landlords and stuff like that.
Well, if it's anything like House of Cards, they're all corrupt.
Well,
that show was kind of eye opening. It was like, is that what this shit's really like?
And I am so scared that is actually
it's the Clintons, right?
I mean, there's a little bit
truthful.
It's supposed to be the Clintons.
Really?
It's based around the Clintons, yeah. Southern accent, that whole thing. I mean, he's South Carolina, not.
And he's also Republican.
Are you saying that Kevin Spacey is supposed to be Clinton?
Yeah. And then,
but that doesn't make any sense because he was.
He
was a congressman and not a governor that ran for president.
It's not the Clintons. It's loosely based on it. Like, I assume I only got like 2 seasons of it before I gave up on it, but
that's not true because his wife is personable and likable. Kevin Spacey's wife, like Hillary's not likable.
Right. Well,
I didn't know for a long time she was in Princess Bride.
Who?
What?
Kevin Spacey's wife, and
yeah. She's also Jenny.
I didn't recognize till I saw. Yeah, right. Yeah, she was Jenny.
I thought you were referencing like Hillary Clinton was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, what?
No.
I've never seen Hillary Clinton in Prince Bride.
Anyway, but I'm sorry. So like I was you remember Waiting, the movie?
Yeah.
Like it didn't disgust us because we know the business. We've been there. We've done that. And like the movie is. They're all true stories, but they're not one true story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's all stuff that happened here, happened there, all shoved together into one continuous story that is the movie. That's how I think or House of Cards is. I think that's what House of Cards is. But one of they use the Clintons are one of the references. But I'm sure like a lot of the little subplot story things that they do are things that have happened. It's just not all from one.
But going off
person.
That analogy, like when you watch Waiting, and if you worked in the service industry, you're like, all that's true. Like it's true, and so
but it's not like every night, every shift, one single restaurant. It's like
exactly
every restaurant you've ever been to, one of those things has happened once every 10 years.
Yeah, so
maybe,
but the House of Cards. I'm like, this is probably exactly how. You want to be governor? This is what I need you to do. You want to be house chair? Like, I didn't even know there was we had this conversation about the whip. Like, I didn't know that was a thing. And apparently that is absolutely a thing.
And that's gross. It's stupid. That's so dumb.
Trying to whip up votes.
No, it's literally like, I mean, you explain it as you did.
He's in charge of making sure that people are voting party lines, and if they are not voting party lines, they will be reprimanded to include expulsion from the party.
So there is a person who exists.
I'd always heard the position, but never knew exactly
the minority whip and whatever, because the minority whip would be the whip of the party that is in the minority of the House in conversation. So like in Nashville, it'd be
those are two whips. Whip for each party?
Yeah, I would assume it's for each party.
For each party.
Okay.
But it's just like the crazy thing, like, we need to go to the Black Caucus. I need you to do this. You need this in your state.
I've been trying.
I need you to vote this way. And he's like, I got 12 votes for you. All right, we'll give you this if you commit your 12 people to us. All right, I've got you. Like, yeah. Why is one person deciding 12 other people's votes?
I've been trying to fish that out of a couple of different people we've had on here that are elected or whatever. It's like, like when and how does the party communicate with you about different issues and stuff like that? Because there's definitely
that was the main thing behind the sunshine laws,
right? But
because everybody kind of was sad facts, but yeah, there are a lot of like backroom dealings that go on, but it's.
And sometimes it's just adding a different.
I mean, sometimes it's actually helped politics. It's given Congress people and senators a chance to kind of get away from the hoopla. And it's like, all right, let's all sit down and have a calm conversation in this back room.
Right, but remember, where we don't have to say the right words for the cameras so that our base doesn't get riled up or whatever. We can actually just talk and figure out things.
Well, it's just like the oh no, I'm only in the first season. I'm not even finished with the first season, but there's the guy from like Pennsylvania that has to close his base that he fought to keep open, but they're like, oh, do you want to be governor of Pennsylvania? We can make that happen, so you need to not be opposed to us closing it, and like destroys all the people in Pennsylvania, like pissed off, and like, I'm like, that shit fucking happens.
Sure.
Like, you're watching the show, you're like, this is exactly how it is. A guy betrays his whole state because he has an agenda to become governor, and it's like...
Yeah, the whole dialing for dollars, just trying to whip up money for their campaign.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
A lot of that's not it. Everybody's like, oh, my average donation's $50, and getting it from all day, alluding to they're getting all this money from, small town Joes that are donating.
10 people give you $1 each, and one person give you $1,500. Your average is only $75 a person.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, which one? Now, when of those 11 people call you, which one are you answering first?
Yeah.
Which one holds more sway?
Yeah. I mean, that's Todd's whole thing. Like, I like in hindsight, like Todd's. I'm going to miss Todd not being in Knox County here pretty soon. He's moving.
Where's he moving to?
Morristown.
Why?
I don't know. I guess the wife's job because
he doesn't do shit
or schools or whatever. I mean,
sorry, Todd.
But like his whole thing is it's all campaign finance. That's his whole pitch, and like he goes to all sorts of commission meetings all the time. Takes a public forum session. Like he sat through that 9-hour debacle meeting with me to wait his turn to make a point about somebody on commission who had a significant donation from some developer who at that meeting was asking for something to be rezoned to do what that developer wanted. He's like, I just want to point it out. I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I just want to make sure that it is public knowledge that a couple of the people on the stage right now got significant donations from this developer who was in this meeting earlier tonight asking for you to rezone, and it was passed. Thank you. Have a good night.
Right.
And that's his whole thing. And it's like, man, he's not off base. There's a problem.
He's not.
There's a problem there that needs addressed. I don't know what the solution is. And I think he's doing, at least the beginnings of the work is to make it a public thing. Nobody pays attention to it, especially at that meeting, because it was like 12:30 in the morning by the time he got his chance to speak.
If we're going to do that, let's just, make it like a 7-Eleven. Like, you want a Snicker bars? This is how much it costs. Like, you want this bill passed? This is how much you have to pay. Just make it open for them. Like,
I mean,
instead of these backroom deals, just do it like that. Like,
everybody talks about how much they want transparency, but nobody ever does it.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing, and it's just the way it is anymore. And my libertarian argument is the biggest problem is this dependency on the two-party system. I'm not saying it wouldn't change if we had more, or I'm not saying it wouldn't still function a number of ways like this if we had more parties at the table. But the way the system is so specifically built to maintain it is what bothers me about it. Things like the election commission that I can't be on because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. And it's like, there's a need for a Republican. No, there's not. All that does is protect you guys and your party. It's not a positive for the system. It's positive for your parties.
Absolutely.
And so anybody out here that doesn't want to be a part of a party or doesn't care about the parties, they care about people doing the job, that they're elected to do, which again is my main issue, is that nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing. Like, I don't think anybody knows what these jobs are that we're hiring people. As a public, we are hiring these people to do a job as a commissioner, as a mayor, as a whatever. And I don't think most people know what the job actually is that they're being asked to pick somebody for.
Well, it's just like my learning that the people that work the voting booths are not volunteers.
Right.
They always call them volunteers. Volunteers don't get paid.
Yeah, these volunteers get paid.
That's fine.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it on the last episode with the kind of campaign finance as well. As you've got these lawmakers that want to stay in power. So how much? I think depending on, I think it averaged between like 30 to even 70% of their time spent during their term was campaigning.
Yeah. And I mean,
or in Washington, not even in their home state.
All right.
Yeah. And what is there? I mean, and again, it's like, and it's one of those, what incentive does anybody in power have to change that? Why would you change that?
Right.
This system got you that spot. And since you're now in it, it's easier to stay in it and continue down the road for whether it's the paychecks or the power or the combination of the two. Why would you do anything to harm that? Like, I mean, like right now,
because it's not, I've said this before, is being a politician back in the George Washington days was like a civil service, a duty that you wanted to do for your country kind of thing.
Okay, go ahead.
No, like they didn't make money. Like, the original politicians were successful business people, professionals that made money that went into politics.
I would argue that there was plenty in those original couple of from day one, there was plenty in there. Sure, there's George Washingtons and Hamiltons and stuff like that, but there's, I mean, what is it? Who's the giant signature? Hancock, who was never elected to anything, but like
Franklin.
There was a lot of personal gain in that for them, for like just for the revolution of itself. It wasn't fully altruistic and I want to be in a free country. It's like, I want to be in this system where I get to push the buttons and I get to make the changes and it benefits me personally.
There was a power. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
There was an absolute power there, but it was not a financial thing. It wasn't like,
not directly, at least. Right?
I'm going to be a politician. I mean, politician is a career path.
No, I agree. But there's definitely a positive financial incentive in the power part, not directly in the making money from the job part, but in the what this does for me and my businesses at home, or me moving forward and my celebrity, because that's part of it for people too. Is there's a celebrity, I want people to know my name. I want to go down in history and live forever, and that's there too. And that's something I don't think you can weed out, even if you take the money away. I don't think you can weed out the power and the prestige part of the greed of those two factors, I guess.
Absolutely. But I think it would change if it was not a paid position.
Yeah. And there's conversation, apparently there's conversation here about moving commission as a full-time job, which would make it a significant paycheck.
It shouldn't.
I don't know.
It shouldn't be.
It's back and there's I get it both ways. I mean, this year being the anomaly that it was.
You get it both ways because you're thinking about running for county commission.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. We come on. You've been I've dabbling your pinky toe in that water.
I have, and this dabble solidified why I'm not going to do it, because I enjoy this too much. I'm not going to take away. I'm not going to lose this. Not this part of the show, but all the interviews and stuff. I'm not going to take away from that.
Why can't you be a city council member and do this show?
Well, I can't be a city council member because I'm not a resident.
A county council member.
I can't be. I could, but it changes it changes the dynamic, because it turns into
because you're interviewing your opponent.
Well, that and then sunshine law stuff. Like I couldn't interview. And again, this is one I don't understand. I need to read up on the sunshine law of it. Like a school board member and a county commissioner can't meet without sunshining it.
You have to have 3 people?
You have to have any elected person in the state of Tennessee to have a meeting with another elected person has to sunshine it.
Which means...
So Governor Lee and who is it? Governor Lee said, I was watching an interview with Governor Lee, and he said something. Oh, it was the Blackburn podcast. And I don't know if it counts because Blackburn's a senator, a federal senator, and not a state thing or whatever. But like he mentioned on the Blackburn podcast about that they talk all the time. And I was thinking to myself, is that allowed? Because you're an elected official of the state of Tennessee. She's an elected official of the state of Tennessee, and by sunshine rules, you have to sunshine all those.
So if, let's say I was, well, I would never be a governor or a mayor or anything, but let's just say I was governor, and then my daughter was Knox County Commission.
Well, I mean, easy example. You take Becky Massey and her brother Jimmy Duncan. He was a federal rep, and she was a state rep or a state senator at the same time. Are they allowed to have family dinner?
Yeah, they have family dinner, and they have to notify Sunshine. Like they have to bring in another politician.
Their family dinner has to be open to the public. I don't know. That's an interest. That I would be curious to know that. I need to get the law director on the show to talk to him about some of those kind of questions. About
do you have his number?
I mean, it's public. It's on the commission website.
No, not his real number. Like they all have their
office number. No, I don't have his phone number. I mean, I have. I'm starting to build up a pretty decent black book of people I can just call or text or message or email or whatever pretty quick, and they respond to me, which is fun. I ran into Courtney at one of my Kroger's a couple weeks ago. It's just she's grocery shopping. I was like, "Hey,
did you suggest some beer for her?"
No, she wasn't in the beer aisle.
Why were you? How were you in if you wasn't in the beer aisle?
Well, I had a display on the other side of the store, and so I worked the beer aisle, and I was heading over to check on my display, and I saw her in the aisle. I was like, "Hey," she's like, "Yeah, you need to come back on the show." I was like, "Yeah, you do." And
that made you feel good, like you get a little chubby there, like.
That's about
she suggested, like, I need to come back on the show.
I mean, there's a couple reasons when hanging out in her presence that might happen, but no, that did not give me a boner.
Now she's never going to be on the show again.
Yeah. Well, just like you guys say, nobody listens to the show anyway. We're just talking to ourselves. But yeah, what were we talking about? Got distracted by Courtney. Yeah. But I don't know. I need to get the law director on to talk about sunshine rules because I'm curious to know some of those. Because I would like to have a couple of commissioners or a city council and a commissioner that represent the same district in here and talk to them about specific things in their district. And I don't know if I can do that. But going way back is that this is why I'm not going to run for office.
Okay.
Because this is too much fun.
So when you started showing the dun 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 dun, and you say a bunch of stuff, did we cover all that stuff, or do we never even cover half of the stuff that you say?
It's hit and miss. It's hit and miss.
We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this, and then we're like gophers in New York City. We're out of control.
I mean, how long did we spend the last episode? We spent 30 minutes talking about populations of different states and stuff like that.
Yeah. We'll look up this state.
I don't know. It's unintentionally on purpose for me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to have like a specific set of things. And I've gotten called out on a couple times. Todd specifically has called me out on some stuff where it's like, how do you have that person on and not ask him about this? And it's like, I don't know. Didn't come up in conversation. I'm not going to be like, if there's a lull and we're not talking for a minute and, it's like, in the last Kyle episode, I had some specifics and I was like, I'm going to talk to him about these couple of things. But, as the conversation goes, if something doesn't come up, that doesn't come up, it doesn't come up.
So we'll just call it Todd. What do you need to know about me, Todd? What is he not asking me? Just.
And I appreciate it because, I mean, it's a learning curve for me, too, on how to have constructive conversations with people. Like, I don't know how to. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure everybody knows that. I got the buttons and the knobs down okay, but as far as having conversations, because again, the whole point is I don't know who these people are and what they're doing, and I don't think most people
transition to different questions.
Yeah,
it's like, was that your favorite color? Okay, and what's your view on this?
Right.
So nobody's going to understand this.
So death penalty, go.
Where are your pictures?
Upstairs.
They're upstairs in the room.
Yeah. I think it's past the statute of limitations. All right, so we'll put it in a hypothetical. Hypothetically, in 2001, Max and I worked together at this hypothetical location down near campus, where a person had placed some wall art in the business, and it went underappreciated. And my wife and I decided that we might want to hypothetically liberate said
when the place shut down.
Wall art. No, it was before. It was way before.
Was it before the place shut down?
Yeah.
Nobody. I hypothetically managed the place and had no idea those disappeared.
Yeah, and you came over here one time. We were watching some UFC fight or something like that, and you're like, "Are those from?"
I honestly thought that was from when the place shut down.
Oh.
I'm just learning that today.
Yeah, and so it's it may or may not be a hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil monkey set, which I have what reminded Max is I have a little statuette here on the desk as part of my room decor about it because it's one of those fun little, because it goes. Bringing it back around because I'm getting skilled in interviews and stuff brings us back around to why we need to teach kids how to use guns. Because to me the hear no evil, speak no evil, or hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil thing is a punchline to me. It's not real. That doesn't work that way. That's not the human condition. We don't. You could. I'm sure there's mountains of studies on it where you put twins in different places and how they turn out. The ability to know and learn and understand or act in a human nature sort of way does and does not have to do with what you've seen and heard throughout your life.
I think they just released one on corporal punishment, like spanking your children, where they did the kind of twin studies.
Yeah. I did. I saw the headline. I didn't read the story on it, but yeah. So I don't know, but so there's that story. But yeah, the national championship thing and that kind of stuff was when we closed. When it shut down. Those were obtained properly.
Which still pissed me off that jersey I have signed by Peyton Manning is not the jersey I personally had signed by Peyton Manning.
Because there's okay, gotcha.
We had two in there, and the air supervisor took the one I had signed.
Let me check my notes on where I had this on our list of things to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So I got the other one that I didn't have signed. Anyway,
still got one.
Yeah,
and those terrible TVs.
we all had a terrible TV
yes!
for years.
And it's like, no, you got the one. You got the best one that was there.
Yes.
You got the one that wasn't 10 years old already.
Exactly. The newest of the big box TVs.
Rear projection.
Yeah,
used to-
Yes,
remember we
yeah.
put that in the living. Yeah, when you and I lived together. Yeah, I had that in the living room in that little pink house we used to live in. The living room was like what 12 by 15 maybe. That TV was 6 foot square, stuck off the wall 3 feet.
Played some old school Grand Theft Auto on that. It's like,
You
holy
couldn't see
shit!
anything. Yeah, it was too big to actually watch anything on. But I'm trying to think of what else has happened as of late. We talked about the baseball thing. That was a big one going on. Talked about the shooting. The budget thing's going to be an interesting one to follow. I'm excited about it. I know you guys aren't, but I'm gonna be investing in some paper.
It's interesting
print off
to look at where the money goes, but
Yeah. I'm
like Max said, it gets a fucking headache just trying to think about it.
Yeah, it's crazy because they're gonna like.
I'm just excited to have somebody that can help me because when you just take the printout that's going to be available to everybody, like it's generics and departments. It's like, well, this department, it's like, well, the transportation department for Knox County Schools spends X. It's like, well, okay, who can I ask? And that's the exciting part for me is that I will go find whoever I need to ask and be like, well, break this down for me. Tell me what this means. Tell me what the transportation part, like the total budget has transportation at $2 million a year. Whatever, I don't know what the number is.
But the guy who assigns all the bus contracts gets paid $1 million a year,
right? And they spend $1 million on
$1 million
right.
extra
that
buses.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so having the contacts in the black book is referred to before. Being able to contact the people and I mean, there is some reputation, regardless of how terrible we are, that persons are aware of who we are and stuff like that. So when I ask, it's not like, hi, I'm this guy from this podcast and blah, blah, blah. I have to go through like 2 paragraphs of explaining who I am and why they should answer my question. I can just be like, hey, it's Seth from Almost in Agreement. I was wondering if I could get you on the show. And they're like, yeah, I've heard about you. People have told me about it and stuff like that. And, like
get that. I always say, oh, they're like, what is it? Who is it?
And my favorite thing, Ezra, Larson J said it when he was on the show. And then Jennifer Owen emailed me because I had emailed some school board people. And it was like, yeah, I really appreciate it. I think you do a fair show. It's like, that's all I want. I'm just trying to understand things. I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm not, last time I had Matt Shears on, I was yelling about it. It's like, I've realized as I'm doing this that I hate politics, but it is a byproduct of governance. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm trying to understand the government, how the government works.
Well, I think that if anyone says that your show, I mean, when I say your show, I'm talking about your side project, because this is our show now, but anyway,
that section of the show,
like, you don't have an agenda other than talking to them and getting their side. It's not like you have a political agenda of, what are you doing here, what's going on here. You're just trying to get information out there,
and I've said it 1,000 times, like, I have a point of view on things and I'll share my point of view, but I'm not trying to make everyone listening's point of view my point of view. I'm just, like on this particular
gun control. I got you on that.
Right. On this particular issue, this is how I feel about it, but I'm not trying to tell you how to feel about it, and that's the idea, I suppose. Because I like what's concerning to me is like that last Kyle Ward one I did, and like I promote it more than I promote anything else as best I could. As I shared it that we were going to do it into a couple of groups, and I got a bunch of people coming back at me like, why would I listen to that? Or is the Randy Pace show? Anyway, either way. Like when I'm like, hey, I got this show coming up. You guys should check it out. I get comments. I'm like, why would I want to hear from that person? And it's like, well, this person is a player in the game that we're all trying to be a part of.
Why would you not want to listen to every person?
Right. It's like, why, like, and so my concern is that as I'm getting more and I'm trying to grow the show more, is that because I'll have a Randy Pace on, local Democrats won't listen to the show because I had a Randy Pace on, and vice versa. I have Matt Shears on, and then the local Republicans are like, well, I don't want to be on that show. You're nice to Democrats. It's like, well,
is that like when AC would speak of cancel culture?
Sort of, yeah.
I don't want to listen to that person because I don't want to listen to that person.
Right, and that's what I was trying to push back on him last week when we were talking about it. It's like, but these people are part of the game, not just the political figures that I talk to on here, but these other people that you're not going to change their mind on. They're part of the game. They're part of this voting public that's out here making these things happen. And, I agree that there's a level of engagement that you have to give up on because they're not going to listen. They don't care. They're stuck in what they're going to say. But pretending like they don't exist because they're not worth talking to is a problem too. Like we need to, what we as a community need to do is figure out how to stop being so rutted into our version that we're not willing to listen, period. And that includes listening to the crazy people. Bob, if you're out there, you're still welcome to come on the show. You blocked me on Facebook, you son of a bitch. But anyway,
Who is this?
Bob. This guy Bob, I got in a big argument on Facebook about, and
Oh,
and so like I told him, I was like, he's super passionate about the board health issue, and I was like, dude, this is where I stand on it, but that's not the point of the show. If you want to come on the show, you can speak your piece, man. I'm down with it. I'm curious to talk to anybody and learn anything I can about something that I'm missing, because there's a lot of part and pieces moving, and I'm sure I missed some. So maybe you can come explain it to me. And he friended me on Facebook, and we talked a little bit, and then I was in some other argument, and he was in the argument, but I couldn't see his. So like other people were talking like, Bob, that's not what they're talking about here. We're talking about the shooting at Austin East, and people were talking to him, but none of his comments were in the feed, which means he blocked me.
that's when you found out you got ghosted.
Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, I mean, I gave you the platform. I gave you my platform. Not that it's huge, but I gave you my platform to speak your piece on, because I am curious enough to hear what you have to say, even though you're kind of crazy. But I'll give you the shot. I'll listen to you. But
Who is this person?
This guy, his name's Bob Fisher.
Like, what is he? Is he board
Nobody.
of health? He's just a person.
He's the guy. He's
We need to get him on here.
I mean,
Come on, Bob.
well, no, he's very impassioned and at least comes off as well educated on the topic and does his research and stuff like that. And again, like I said, it's worth listening. I might get through an hour of a conversation with him and still not agree with him, but I'll let him say his piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like why there's one Bible and 30 religions.
Right. Well, I mean, hell, there's 3 massive religions based on one Bible. And
there's more than that.
Separate. But as far as, I mean,
There's more than that.
what outside of the Abrahamic, how many Abrahamic religions are there?
Well, if you just take like the King James, you've got
You have all your.
you have your Catholic, your
Right,
Baptist, your Methodist, your Presbyterian, your.
But I was more referencing that you have 3 pretty separate functional Judaism, Christianity, and Islam that are all based on
the same God.
the same God.
Yeah,
But they're totally different paths on the same story.
Mhm.
But where at least Baptist, Christian, Lutheran, not Christian, Baptist, Catholic, Lutheran,
Methodist,
Methodist,
Presbyterian, all the
Jesus
other
Christ
ones. Yeah.
scientists. They're all a subset of one set.
Yeah.
But they're not separate religions in the sense where Islam and Christianity.
Some of them have pretty major differences. Well, not major, but
Well, no,
Pretty
they have.
specific.
They have.
But there's
it's,
some that
they're
don't believe
all-
in the Holy Trinity.
But they all believe like
I would think that's pretty
the
major.
King James Bible is the same for all those people.
Right. They read the same book.
They don't
but
have
interpret
the
it
same
differently.
Bible where like the Jews don't believe in the New Testament. It's just Old Testament, and then the Muslims believe in the Quran versus the Bible.
Of course, the New Testament. I think they still recognize the Old Testament.
Who?
Islam.
Islam.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
Because they're that. I mean, that's
Abrahamic.
The
Yeah.
Abrahamic. They're all.
Yeah.
By lineage, where all 3 religions come from Abraham.
I was trying
Isaac.
to look it up the other day because you hear a lot of like Judeo-Christian.
Which
So
is
I was
like my
like,
great-great-grandson.
is there a Judeo-Islamic? I don't think it pulled up
Well, I mean,
any results.
Judeo is what is. I mean, Judeo is Jesus, right?
Judaism. I assume is what,
Oh,
what I
yeah,
thought
that's
it
it.
meant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
I
not.
mean, and it's weird because like Jesus is a prophet in all 3 religions, but he's only a god in one of the religions.
He's not a prophet in Judaism. He's a prophet.
No. He is.
He is.
Yeah. So the Jews believe that
I know he's a recognized figure, but I don't know.
that he was a prophet or what you call it. Like they don't believe he's a son of God.
Right. Yeah.
And so in Muslim they believe that all 3 religions believe in him, but in different ways. Put it that way.
Right.
I wouldn't say prophet or whatever, but like
prophet might be the right word. I don't know. Again, check my notes.
How did we get on? You didn't say we're going to talk about Christianity and Judaism and
but I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I'm excited about budget season. I'm excited about this city races, even though I don't get to vote in them. I'm really concerned. I'm like it. I don't know if it's always been this way because I hadn't paid attention to recently. Like all the stuff we talk about on the national level that we hate, in the politics and how people run and the especially the dirty politics, it's already started on local stuff. I mean, it's already started in the city races that are significantly far off. Like campaign seasons are starting earlier, and this attack ad format, which I really don't like.
I haven't seen any, but I try not to look at too much stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm keeping a close eye on this newly what's the word I'm looking for here? Newly excited GOP situation with Herrera at the helm, because from what little history I had with Randy, he's one to throw out the loony leftist kind of thing, and it's not out of character for him to speak in that way. But it never felt to me like, and maybe because we didn't have him as much during campaign season, but both sides with their the demonization of the other thing is going to be a problem, and it seems like both sides are going to do it, and both sides are going to say, well, we don't do it as bad as the other.
Yeah, it's kind of become the status quo, sadly.
Yeah. And I
guess it's easier just to shit on someone than build them.
Well, it's because we react to it. And that's really what it comes down to. And it goes back to, I've been saying this for over a year now. It's our fault. We did this. We created this monster. And so we have to take it apart. And, going back, if we're not going to listen, if we're not willing to talk to people, we're just going to perpetuate the monster that is. And it's just going to get worse. It's going to be just a constant cycle through everybody's history and every little detail of every little thing. And, how can I construe this action that this person took to make him sound worse? And it just needs to stop. And I don't know how to do it other than to try to talk about it.
I've seen some of it on like the federal, as far as getting people approved for different positions in cabinet or whatever. A lot of like tweets and stuff like, back in March of blah blah blah. Like, did you tweet out blah 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 blah? And they're like, I don't remember. I'd have to look at it. They're like, we can look at it out of session.
How many tweets, how do you not remember every single tweet you ever put out?
Right.
I mean, I think that's I don't know. I think it's one of those, like, there's a good and bad too, that the way Twitter and social media works for politicians is that, it becomes a tool for both sides regardless. But it keeps that record. And there's part of it, there's part of it that makes sense, that record's important to stay public and we all get to see it. But at the same time, it's like, 30 years ago, you said this thing, and it's like, I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago, let alone 30 years ago. I might make a change. I might change my outlook on things.
I was not making that statement in an official capacity. I was not making it.
I mean, but even if you were, it's like, are we to just stand on the podium of everybody is who they are the first day they speak? You're not allowed to learn and change your mind over time?
No, and I have, like, I don't like Biden. But when, like, people pull stuff up from 1974 or whatever, when he said this, and it's like, in 1974 I was born, I probably had a lot different thought process,
right?
Than
right. That's
now.
There's this assumption of that we're static figures, that nothing changes over time, and it's like, some stuff might not change, some stuff might change, and I don't know how we can properly vet that and make it clear on X, Y, or Z. But like, I can't be held to account something from 20 years ago today. Now, if that same sentiment came up 5 years ago, all right, so 20 years ago and 5 years ago, you've been stuck on, like, you've been on this side of this issue. Okay, well, then that's probably a consistent thing. But, one tweet from forever ago doesn't mean that's me today. And I think that's a problem we're stuck in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's for somebody that, let's say, graduates high school and they believe the certain way they believe, and then they go to college and get their doctorate. Well, the guy's a doctor now. He's performing surgeries. So you think that he could have performed surgeries
right
10 years ago when he graduated? No, because his beliefs and his learning and his stuff is different now. And it's like, how do we constantly? And it's mainly in politicians where they like pull some crap out.
But it's not anymore.
That's
the real cancel culture issue, is that it's not just in politics anymore. It's people that are just out working their lives that piss off the wrong person, and they go dig through their history and find that one time they wore blackface when it was 1984 and they wanted to be Michael Jackson for Halloween and went in blackface. And in 1984, it was not that fucked up. It's fucked up now.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold them to account for that action. It's like, come on now. I mean, seriously. Like,
I know, it's really disappointing because I'd really like to go as Snoop Dogg for Halloween one year, but I can't.
I mean, you got to smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah, I would have to start doing that.
Like a lot of weed.
A lot of weed.
All the time.
Okay. If my wife wanted it to be Snoop Dogg for Halloween, she can.
Right.
Yeah, keep changing your name. Snoop Lion.
Right. Got to get into reggae and all that kind of stuff. Again, that's an issue, and I don't know how we. And again, it's up to us as the persons to not fall prey to it. Like, okay, so something happens, and some politician's going after another politician about something from 15 years ago. It's just gonna be like, no, I'm not playing the game. And it goes down to all the shit in Georgia right now with the voting stuff and baseball doing their thing, and the Masters may or may not play there next year or this year. I didn't
realize the whole MLB was not subject to monopolization.
Monopoly law, yeah.
Was it monopoly law?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we're going to change their status. So I guess that's kind of the big pushback on the MLB. It's like antitrust. That's what it is. They're like, we're going to take out your antitrust thing. I was like, wait, they had an antitrust policy that they could just, I guess, do whatever they want and violate antitrust laws. They were just
there is no other professional baseball.
They're like what is it called? Like a diplomatic immunity. Like they do whatever the hell they want.
I got a card, bitch.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just that's the. Yeah, I never thought about it either until I saw that as well. It's like there's no other professional baseball. Period. Like even minor league baseball is all property of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I watched a show, Netflix the other day. About a guy that started because when Major League Baseball took over all the minor leagues and all the stuff, and it really ended independent baseball. And there was a guy, I can't remember what he did or what he made money doing something, and decided he played like minor league baseball or maybe he played professional baseball. But then up in Oregon, started an independent baseball league, independent baseball team that was not a farm team for any professional thing. It's a good movie, but so he has open tryouts, and like his son plays on the team, and like he's the manager, and like gets all these people, and so minor league baseball let his team be in the league because they were like, oh, this team's not going to do anything. Like
and they were good.
They were smashing all the other teams, and then they like Major League Baseball was like, this isn't good for us because this guy's an independent. Like his players can sign with any Major League Baseball team they want, and minor league baseball got really pissed off. I didn't finish this show, so I can't tell you how it ends. But it's not a documentary, it's a docudrama kind of thing about that. But I was like,
speaking of docudramas, have you guys watched Westworld?
Yes, and that's not a docudrama.
It will be.
Just wait.
It will be.
The early days of the NFL were like that. I didn't realize there used to be 2 or 3 different leagues.
Right. Well, they always talk about the merger.
Right.
But NFL, but I don't think NFL has the protection because you had the XFL. You've had other leagues pop up and just not survive. Right. Okay, they can't functionally beat them, but it's still probably fall under a better example of antitrust in that case because you've had other leagues try to get in there and they just can't compete. And the point of antitrust is to keep it from being one.
Can you consider XFL part of the same sport? 'Cause it's like half the league. It's like indoor football, basically. Right?
No, XFL what was the one they did 2 years ago? They did the one that they played in the spring, and it was outdoor regular football.
Well, they did the XFL that was like with Jim McMahon or like WWE,
Vince McMahon?
like well, Vince,
Right, well,
Jim McMahon was the quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
There's arena football, which was the one that they played inside on the short field, and that was actually kind of fun. Have you ever watched any of that?
Yeah,
it's crazy. It was
every
crazy
kickoff was just like waiting for it to go off the netting.
Yeah.
Now the girl arena football league is pretty
lingerie football.
Yeah, the lingerie football. They have shoulder pads and bikinis on.
Yeah. I mean, there is a very specific market they're trying to sell to.
But yeah, like my grandfather played for the Decatur Staleys that turned into the Chicago Bears when they went professional. Well, they were professional, but then they became Chicago Bears with the NFL.
Right. But the NFL had the merger, the NFL AFL merger, and that's how we got the NFL that we have today. because you had, essentially, other than expansion teams, all the old teams in the league were the two separate, were the AFL and NFL.
Yeah.
So you had the old, like the Packers and the Bears. And
wasn't the original, like the Super Bowl was like the champions of the AFL and the NFL or whatever?
Yeah, which is essentially still what it is, except you play outside of division now, where you didn't before. Like the old version of the original couple of years of the Super Bowl or whatever is like my super college football system.
Yeah,
I mean, that's really what
exactly,
it is.
Yeah,
it would just be you only play in your conference until that tournament.
Wasn't it really lopsided the first couple of years? Because like one league, the teams just weren't as good.
Yeah, Green Bay like won everything for like the first.
Green Bay won the first two, and then Kansas City won a couple. Green Bay paid Kansas City in the first two. It was Green Bay and Kansas City were like the teams. That's why I was excited about this last year. Not to mention I was going to win a big fucking futures bet.
But
I think I mixed it up with hockey.
Not as much as you, but I would have won something.
I was excited about last year because it was looking like it was going to be Green Bay, Kansas City, and it's like that's like the storyline, like all the story bullshit that they do going into the Super Bowl. It's like rematch of Super Bowl I. It's going to be a big, great whatever. And then Rodgers and the Packers donked off the NFC Championship.
I think I was mixing up with hockey. I think in the years of trying to mix up different teams into different conferences, there was a short time where there was one like really shitty conference that only had like 4 teams in it. So it was always kind of like the best of the worst kept getting to go to the Stanley Cup.
Well, it's like the NFC North, or NFC East, rather. It's like the NFC East every year. Somehow one of them makes the playoffs. But
are you talking about Dallas, Philadelphia, the Giants?
Yeah, and the whatever that other one, the Washington football team.
The Washington football team.
Yeah.
They've still not have. I've not heard anything on that.
I think they're sticking with it. I think they're keeping it. I think that's what it is.
That's
the
Washington football team.
That's all it is.
What is their mascot? Like
a football.
A football.
I don't know. A white guy in a feather cap running around.
A white guy in a feather cap.
But I don't know. Like I've been so out of sports. Like this pandemic and stuff has just really ruined me on sports.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't watched any hockey this year. I've watched like a couple highlights here and there. I haven't watched any hockey this year.
You've not been watching hockey because you're white privilege and you're feeling bad,
right? There's a couple black guys that play hockey. They're all Canadian, so they're not really black. But I mean, basketball's basketball, so I don't care. I did get to catch a good chunk of the Bristol on dirt race. That was fun.
I did see they finally got to do it. I didn't watch any highlights.
Got rained out the first night, or it got rained out on Sunday, and they ended up having to do it on Monday. And I got to watch a good chunk of that. That was pretty awesome. I've joked about it a million times. It's on Sunday afternoon. It's golf or NASCAR. You can fall asleep for a couple 30, 45 minutes, wake up, get a little catch on what's going on, then fall back asleep. You're not missing that much. But yeah, watching that dirt race was fun. That was cool. I know Keith from the shop. He went up. He was at the race, and he shared a picture of the Saturday night or Sunday morning with all the rain, and like they're just like flooding all over the place around the racetrack.
Really?
Yeah. And so yeah, apparently they took the dirt from the fairgrounds, and I guess they took it back. I don't know.
So that was funny. I was like, do they have to give it back?
Used
dirt. They have to give it back.
I mean, I'm sure
they just sold it. They sold it online.
I mean, that dirt's got to go.
I bet you people big fans would buy that.
Yeah, they probably
That's
did
what
sell
they should
that.
have done. Been like after the race, being like $10, get yourself a bucket of dirt, and people just come out, and that whole thing would have been gone in a couple hours.
That's a great idea.
Other than the
people are paying you to clean it up.
Other than the stampede of people hurting each other trying to get the dirt from this corner and whatever.
I want the blood spots.
I know, like that we were talking about it on the chat a couple weeks ago. When UT beat Florida for the first time here in forever, the 98 season and all that kind of stuff. And they took the goalpost on the strip, and people getting on the field and just ripping up chunks of the grass and taking it home with them.
They did it in Georgia years ago. So they've got the hedges or whatever, the shrubs, and those got ruined a few years ago when the team stormed, or the fans stormed the field.
You know about Auburn? That's Alabama.
No, Georgia.
Georgia's got shrubs.
Yeah, they always call it like the battle between the hedges or
between
whatever.
Hedges.
Well, Auburn's got those hedges too that run all the way down.
Yeah. I don't know. That's I don't know. Hopefully we'll get back to more normal football this year. I mean, I stayed on pro ball this year, but I didn't watch as much college ball as I usually do. I don't gamble as much either, which is part of it.
Orange and white games.
Yeah, gambling makes you be more into football than anything.
Well, I mean, you pay attention to WAC conference and stuff like that.
Some of these new betting sites, you can just bet on the stupidest shit. Like,
oh, dude, I love those are like prop bets. Those are fun.
what
Those
color
are
would
super
their shoelaces be today?
I think the only money I've won this season was, when we went legal on the app betting on DraftKings or something like that. And I just like randomly I'll get on there. I'm like, oh, I got like $20, okay, and I'll bet on like basketball, which I know shit about, and then like I'm like this team, do like some prop bets or whatever, yeah. And then like later that week I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. What happened? I'm like $90 in my account. Oh shit, I must have won something.
Sweet.
And like
I hit one of them.
Wait, what did I do right?
Yeah, like I have no idea what I'm doing on
I think my biggest win on DraftKings fantasy whatever was a random baseball game a couple years ago. I had a couple bucks in my account left from football season. Like I put like $100 in to start the season and played like a whole season of football on $100, which was great. I was really, I was pleased with making it through the season and not having to add more money and getting to play games every week or whatever. So I had like $10 left in my account, and it was like March, April or whatever baseball season started, and I was like, how do you do draft fantasy baseball? I don't know what I'm doing, so I just picked a game and just threw a bunch of players on there and ended up winning. And I was like, yeah. And then that money, I didn't put any money in for the next football season.
Yeah, there you go.
Off of one random baseball and not knowing what I was doing. But, yeah, I don't like the way the state did that. I wish they hadn't done it as online only. They should have done it. They should have let us have sports books, like
sports books at our place. We're gonna have a little TV running.
I mean, again, it's like we're gonna let it happen. Okay, cool, but let's do it profitable for us. Like I don't know what the specifics of the tax system are.
They wanted to make it profitable because it's only 3 or 4 companies I think that are allowed to operate in the state.
Right.
BetMGM, DraftKings. I don't know who else.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the other ones that was a fantasy football thing that I think DraftKings bought anyway.
Well, DraftKings was fantasy football, and then they have a separate one that is
right. But they have back in the day there was There was DraftKings, and then there was the one other one, FanDuel.
Oh, FanDuel, yeah.
They have a FanDuel sportsbook, yeah. And I just wish they. I mean, again, for if it's one of those things like it's like, well, everybody does it, so we might as well make the money off of it. Well, why didn't you do it so that like the business side can make money off it too? We had Tennessee residents that own whatever to run these sports books.
Yeah, because the people that are making money off this do not live in Tennessee.
Right. I'm sure there's some good taxes going into it, but that money that they make that goes back to wherever they are, they go and spend on what they spend in their state, and that's where they get. If
they allow us to do it, we'd be spending that money that we won off these people.
Right. We'd be employing,
in this state.
Right. We'd be employing residents here. And those residents would take their paycheck and go out and spend that money on whatever they spend it on, and that's tax revenue here.
Too bad we don't have like a podcast that talks to political figures in Tennessee.
Yeah. Well, I'm not good at state level yet. I'm still working my way into state level. I've only got 2. I need to get Zachary in here. That's on my list of things to do. I need to get McNally in here because he has a little bit of Knox County. But for and again for my maybe it's just aiming small because we're getting started at it. I'm not. Governor Lee is sure. If I could pull it off, I would take Governor Lee and do an interview with him. Absolutely. But like I can't get either mayor on yet. Neither one of them will respond to me yet.
I need to talk to Jacob. You want me to go down and talk to him?
Well, I mean, Kyle's. Me and Kyle are pretty tight. So Kyle and Mayor Jacobs are on first name basis. Like. Somebody was making fun of it, and was chatting about it and making fun of it. It's like, did you hear how many times you referred to him as Glenn? It's like, well, it's his name, right? It's like, yeah, but you don't, you use their first name when you're buddies with them. Not, well, it's like, okay.
Maybe you need to stop calling him Mayor Kane.
I know, that's why I make fun of myself for that quite often. It's like, maybe if I didn't call him Mayor Kane, he'd come on the show.
He heard that one time. He's like, fuck them.
Yep, nope, don't hear them.
But like, if I was a politician, I would love that. Like, if my I don't have a nickname, but if I had a nickname, like something else I did in life, like well, Marine. If people were like, oh, it's the Marine mayor, like I'd be like, that's fucking cool. Yeah. Like, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
But it's and I guess it's a question of whether or not he, politically speaking, whether that's advantageous for him to kind of separate himself from that, which he doesn't seem to try to, because like he made it. He went and got his Hall of Fameness for wrestling, and I mean the news ran a story on it here, and maybe that's the news trying to poke at him because I mean I hear people reference it as a slight on him as a political figure quite often.
Oh yeah,
Got that stupid wrestler mayor. It's like, okay, so what? He made his money. He did his job, and he retired from that career, and he was moving on to something else. And he decided this is what he wants to do.
He did a match like last year.
Yeah, it was a fundraiser, not a fundraiser politically, but it was like a charity event or something like that.
Mayor Jacobs needs to come down to the Chatterbox. They have wrestling one Saturday a month.
I mean, it'd be something. He might. I mean, you get some excited wrestlers there.
Yeah, they would be like,
wow, no way.
I tell you, that's the most fun I've had at a wrestling event.
This episode brought to you by the Chatterbox.
Located by Chatterbox.
Located on Chapman Highway.
Way down south.
Just
Knoxville's oldest bar.
They're like this. It's the last thing before you get into
Seymour,
Sevier County, Seymour, or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I say it jokingly, and I don't mean it to be rude, but I think it's a fact. It's history. I don't care. I don't think it's a bad thing that he was a wrestler. I don't think that's a problem. You know, I mean,
didn't we have a president that was an actor?
Yeah, or
He did a lot of politics.
Wasn't I mean, what's his name from God, it's gonna drive me nuts now. From Queen, the guitar player from Queen's like an astrophysicist. Like just because he's a rock star doesn't mean he can be an astrophysicist. No, he's smart enough to be an astrophysicist.
Brian May.
Yeah, just because you have some specific, thing that made you famous doesn't mean you're not smart enough. Like what's the chick from
Gina Davis is in Mensa.
No,
is she?
Yeah.
Really?
What's the dorky sitcom that just ended? Sheldon and whatever.
Oh yeah.
What's her name on there? Not the
Third Rock?
blonde chick,
No.
but the other chick. She's some sort of doctorate. Topanga's a doctor, but that's a whole separate thing. Yeah, she's got some sort of doctorate or something like that.
Mila, what is her name?
No, Mila Kunis is from
that 70s show.
That 70s show.
No, I'm thinking who's.
You might be right.
What's her name?
What's the name of the show? We can't get settled on that one.
Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, Theroy.
Blossom.
Yeah. My wife went and saw her talk at something here in Knoxville, and she made a shirt that was printed like, "Oh, a tiara." Like, there's an episode where she gets a tiara from Sheldon.
I never got into this show really.
Which one? Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Bialik. Something Bialik.
Yeah, there we go. Mayim.
Yeah, that's how I was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of weird things like the band Bad Religion. Like 4 of the people in the band are like professors. Like one was like a professor at whatever university. Like 4 of them were professors, and then like the drummer's like, I play video games.
While she was on Blossom, she was expected into Harvard and Yale. She was a neuroscientist studying obsessive compulsive in adolescence and Prader-Willi syndrome.
Wait, she was awarded?
While Blossom was still in there, she had already won a deferred place at Harvard and was also accepted by Yale, but chose in the end to attend UCLA. She was awarded her bachelor's in 2000 and began her PhD and completed it in 2007.
Okay. I didn't know if it was one of those, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Commensurate? No.
Yeah. Honorary.
Honorary, yeah.
Yeah, an honorary doctorate from whatever. They took Bill Cosby's back.
Did they?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Can you take somebody's doctorate back?
Well, I mean, as much as you can. I mean, it's an asterisk on the record. As much as you could take the home record away from Sammy Sosa or whatever. You know, everybody knows he did it.
Yeah.
But they took it away because of the steroids or whatever. But everybody still knows he did it.
Like Lance Armstrong's
everybody knows
7 Tour de France.
Yeah, everybody still knows he did it, and that one specifically. I mean, either one, baseball is included. I mean, everybody was doing the roids at that time. Anybody in that?
Did you say Leroyds?
The roids.
Oh, I thought you said Leroyds. Doing Leroyds at that time.
Yeah.
That's a baseball brand name.
It's a brand name of performance enhancing called Leroyds.
But again, the point being is just because you have one career path doesn't mean you're not functional at something else. Like, I mean, you got.
It gives me some pause when people come into office and have like no government. I mean, sometimes that can be refreshing because you're getting a fresh look at it.
Right.
But at the same time,
Trump is an example of where it's not a great thing when you're new to politics to get into politics. I get it.
What are you
talking about, Mr.
talking about?
I don't know. I was just saying Trump is a good example of not being a refreshing version of somebody who doesn't have a history in politics jumping in.
So, Sam, you saying you want people that are deeply in politics to be politicians?
Yes, in the sense that I want to go to a doctor that, didn't just go to vet school or whatever. That's a bad example. Someone that has some knowledge in the field in which we're about to elect them into a position for.
Right.
That gives me a little more comfort that they know something about the job that we've just elected them to do.
Right. You don't go.
You want somebody that knows how to work.
Is a real pain in the ass to recall them. And they're like, oh, but you can just recall them at any point. It's like, yeah.
No, you can't.
You want somebody that has learned how to cheat the system to work the system.
If you want to assume that all politicians are corrupt, then yes, that is the same thought logic.
Most career politicians are corrupt.
But that doesn't mean all.
And
gotta have some hope there's good ones out there.
It's institutional knowledge is what you want. People that understand the way the thing works, because they're people that come in that don't know what they're doing, can't do anything. Or somebody
most of us into politics, started at the county level, then maybe went up to the state level.
Just like if you if you're opening a restaurant and you find a career server, they are going to know how to steal from you. They're going to do a great job, but they're going to know how to steal from you.
You're not wrong. But again, it goes back to the real number one underline. If we want to go through and put a very broad brush over this whole thing, is that the system is so damn complicated that normal people can't keep up with it. And to be able to get into it, to be functional, you start on the local level and you work your way up. And as you work your way up, you understand the nuances and the ins and outs and that stuff. And that gives you a place to hide when you want to. Just like the server who knows how to steal because they've served forever and they know which ways and what buttons to push and how to get it done. And they may be really good at the job, but they know how to exploit it as well. And so it's a system problem. It's not an individual problem. It becomes an incentive to be able to hide underneath the complexity. That's my issue with it, because there's no incentive. Like I
mean, you're blaming the system for just bad actors. I mean, you can find that in all across the board.
Sure,
that there are shitty people at all levels of anything.
We would have significantly less bad actors if it wasn't so easy to be a bad actor once you get there. Because once you get there, because
they're just a bad actor for a different reason, rather than being corrupt. They're
right. But would you elect one if you knew it?
That I knew that they knew what? If
they were a bad actor because you've seen them in other senses, or would you elect them again? I guess it'd be better to say. So they get in there and they're a bad actor, and it's easy to follow them and see them do the bad things because it's out in front. It's not hideable underneath the system. Would you elect them again? Less likely. But since they can do their bad actions and hide under the complexity, you don't see it as well, and we can't pick it apart as well, and we can't analyze it. What's it? The Randy Pace statement. It's Randy Pace statement of inspect, not expect. It's harder to inspect what they're doing because it's so damn complex that they can hide inside that complexity. Now, if that complexity is not there and it's out in the open, we're not going to vote them in again. I would hope. That might not be true because we tend to be kind of stupid with the way we vote. And I say that myself included.
Yeah.
What? That'd be the thing is like, if
I guess in your thing, I'm thinking of is either we didn't have any knowledge on the person and didn't elect them, trying to differentiate that between having someone in there and watching them and having the choice to elect them again. You can't know both sides of that.
Well, I agree that's why I change it to re-elect, because I think you're right. Because on the way in, we don't know that they're going to do the things that they're going to do. They can say whatever they want to say, but until they have the job, they don't do it. And if they say they're going to do X, Y, Z and don't, or even worse, do the opposite because it's politically advantageous or whatever, if we can see it, we're not going to vote them back in again because we can see clear as day that they're doing it for their own ends or whatever, not for what they said they would do.
But can't we see clear as day either way?
I mean, we certainly can't currently. And that's my point, is that it's so complicated they can hide inside the little backroom deals, and the whip tells them that they're not being Republican enough, and the Republican Party supports this, that, and the other and pushes this agenda, and then all these things go, all these moving pieces come together to keep them where they are, and they can come out in public and say whatever they want, but they can walk out on the vote.
Right.
You know, one of those things that you've complained about before is they can be like, well, we're going to vote on this thing. It's like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, sorry, I missed that vote.
That was weird to say.
You know, I'm going to say no to it because I have to say no to it because the party wants me to, but my constituents are going to be pissed if I say no to this.
Talking about Glenn Jacob, it was interesting to see because even some of I can't remember if it was a Congress or a Senate meeting, even they were starstruck and were making jokes. They're like, I don't want to make him mad. You know, he might take me and choke slam me or whatever.
He is a massive dude. I mean, regardless of that,
it was
part
just
of his
funny to
history.
see like those people, you know, in a semi-prestigious thing, were still kind of starstruck. Like, oh my God, that's Kane.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a.
And he's like, I'm coming here to ask you guys for money.
I'd be scared in his presence.
You guys want to bring up, you know, my other career. I'm coming here to ask the state for, you know, money for the stadium. Can we not talk about wrestling right now?
Right.
Kane's about my size without the belly.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, he's a physically intimidating man, regardless of his history.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
So I would be remiss to try to push him the wrong way just because he's physically large. But you know, I'm a human being, and that's what.
At the same time, it's nice to see, you know, legislators that can kind of joke around with each other.
Right. All right. Last call. Anything? Last call. Anything exciting?
Nothing exciting.
All right. Well, we did it. We talked about all those things I said in the intro, and all the things I didn't say in the intro, and so much more. It's almost an agreement, everybody. We did what we said we were going to do, which wasn't anything in particular. So, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, check us out there. I'll be doing more videos on interviews as I'm getting better with the new system. AlmostAnAgreement.com. Go there. Get access to any of the episodes. I've got like 25, 30 more of the original episodes to add to it, but I'm still working my way backwards that way. Like we said, we got city races, we got budgets. That's going to be the fun one. I've been talking to Virginia Babb and Jennifer Owen about school budgets and how those are doing. And we'll keep working on those as well as all these city races coming up. Everybody that I've talked to that's running in the city wants to wait till May. That's when the petitions get turned in, and then we know whether they're official candidates or they're just thinking about it. So we'll see that in May, among other things. AlmostAnAgreement.com, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we'll try to do it.